Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, June 28th, 8:46 a.m., and we are back with another market open. Folks, we just got PCE data, and quite frankly, I forgot we were going to get PCE data. I knew it, but because of what happened last night, obviously with the debate and all of the attention going to the debate, I literally woke up this morning and I was like, oh yeah, we have PCE data. And the PCE data came in with expectations. SPY right now, what we're looking at, 547.88. I thought there might be a bigger reaction, quite frankly. And there wasn't that big of a reaction. I mean, I think that's primarily because, the street just kind of knew what would happen in terms of the expectations to be softer or in line with how we think inflation is coming down. The headline numbers, for those that did not see it, were 2.6% on the yearly and on the monthly, which was really good, right? It was, that's really good numbers. And again, good numbers, it's what the numbers you want to see. Now, if we came in at 2.5, 2.4, which means if we came in below expectations, yeah, it would have been, this pre-market would have been kind of crazy, but it's taking our time to slow down, which is good. Slow and steady kind of wins the race here, but it is coming down. So May PCE inflation on the monthly falls to 2.6%, in line with expectations. Core PCE inflation also fell to 2.6%. The Fed thought it would be 2.6%, or not the Fed, the banks. So this wasn't like CPI where the banks thought it would be 3.4, and I think it came in at 3.2. The banks thought we would come in at 2.6. We came in at 2.6, and so it's what the Fed kind of wanted to see, what the banks wanted to see. And that was very important. Now, in the context of certain stocks, we've got Tesla back above 200 for the first time since March, teetering there on that $199, $200 level. We just touched 200.67, but nice to see once it's above 200. And we've been talking about this for a couple of days now on the show. I think, running up into the 220s, 230s for the Robotaxi event, and then potentially selling off on that Robotaxi event. That's very possible, but it needs to psychologically feel to people that they're okay buying Tesla over 200 after the entire year, basically having the opportunity to buy it in the 140 to 170 range. So getting over 200, I think, is going to be very important. And again, it's the only Max 7 that hasn't really run this year. It's still the only Max 7 that's down this year. That potentially will change if it normalizes above 200. Nike, we talked about this yesterday on the market close at $79. That's down 15%. Street basically thinking that Nike does not have the momentum. Obviously, Nike cut their guidance for the full year, which is really tough because it means this is going to be a transition year. They're going to have to work together to try to figure out what they can do to revitalize the brand, and the street doesn't want to stay around for that. So Nike down 15%. I would imagine there's going to be some dip buyers. Nike's not going anywhere. It's at a more attractive price than it was yesterday, but still, it's just not the type of earnings that the street was expecting or wanted from Nike. You got Celsius up 1% in the pre-markets, Palantir 25.45 about 0.91%, SoFi getting some momentum up about almost 1% in the pre-markets. Nvidia, that inflation report was good for Nvidia, 124.82. We hit 125 at one point in the pre-markets. Robinhood 22.77. So the inflation report also obviously good for Robinhood. JPM is up, TFC is up, all the banks are up, and then Bitcoin is slightly down, but there was a little bit of a green candle there once the inflation report came out today. So not bad at all in the context of inflation. Tesla did hit 200 in the pre-markets. Yep, Tesla did hit $200 in the pre-market. Okay, so that was what we had for PCE and for this inflation report. Again, I think a lot of people probably were a bit, I think a lot of people probably forgot that inflation was coming out this morning just because of the fact that we had the debate last night. And as Adam says in the chat, DJT, which transitions us, is now up 9% at $40 into the debate. So I'm going to spend probably 10 to 15 minutes discussing my thoughts on the debate. We got to talk about the debate, and then we'll keep going further from there. And I'm going to give my perspectives, my thoughts, and kind of how I thought this affected the markets. Now, one thing that the market is also running as well is because I don't think it's it's not news to anybody that if Trump were to win, markets would probably react positively towards that because of the fact that we would get tax cuts, less regulation, stuff that's more business friendly, stuff that happened in 2017. Futures ripped higher yesterday, midway into the debate, because it seems like they were pricing in a Trump victory. And the reason it seems like they were pricing in a Trump victory, and these are my now thoughts about the debate, is well, let me just say before I say this again, this is not really political. This is more so someone coming from someone who has analyzed debates for the past decade. I did debate in high school. You guys know my history with debate. You guys know how long I've spent doing debate. Objectively speaking, Biden got cooked. It's just it's hard to put it any other way. Joe Biden absolutely got cooked last night, and it was one of those things where you felt embarrassed and sad and quite frankly angry that he's the president, because there's no way in hell he's running the country right now, given how he was acting on stage, because he could not put sentences together. And again, this is coming from someone who's objectively analyzing a debate. I put this out last night on Twitter, and then I'll get into my thoughts. This is what I thought needed to happen going into the debate. What I thought needed to happen was Trump needed to focus on Ukraine, illegal immigration, and challenge Biden's mental fitness. He did all three of those things. And the third one, my nuance, was that he can't ad hom attack Biden, because then people are going to think of him as a bully. So there are certain moments where he has to say hey, Biden doesn't know what's going on right now. And he did that perfectly, dude. I mean, he couldn't do it any more perfect than the slight nuances in terms of how he attacked Biden's mental fitness. For Biden, needed to talk about abortion, let that get away. Needed to take victory for this economy, definitely let that get away. And then he needs to frame Trump as someone who will ruin democracy, January 6th, all this stuff. I mean, Trump totally reversed the January 6th spin in a almost, a flawless way. Whoever was his debate coach definitely deserves a raise, given the one-liners they gave him for that one. And I think Trump ended up executing. And, I said, again, for those that don't know my debate background, number 7 debater in the United States of America in 2016. I actually put the receipts up yesterday for people to see it. And number 3rd debater in Europe in 2015. So my perspective is primarily coming from someone who's analyzing the potential and the framework and the psychology and the ability for someone to win or lose a debate. I've judged hundreds of debates. I've been in hundreds of debates. I've lost debates. I've won debates at the highest of levels. I've been in the same type of debate Biden was in yesterday, where you have a very public panel and you have 2 people with the podium. I've done that whole thing. And there's a certain type of demeanor you need to have, a certain type of perceptual dominance that you need to deploy in order to be able to get an audience to actually care about your thoughts and ideas and ultimately vote for you. Even if your other opponent is smarter or has better ideas, or, they're more wittier than you, there's a way to still win those debates. Biden apparently did not work on running the country for the past 7 days. He was in Camp David and they were prepping for this debate. It does not seem like he was well. It just does not seem like he was well at all. And I don't, there were certain moments where Trump definitely didn't capitalize and he could have done a lot better. And I think there were too many moments where Trump was like, well, but Joe Biden is the worst president in history. Like that stuff was kind of such an hyperbolic statement that you could have said things that were more normal and real. And I think it would have hit home. But Biden did not make an argument that was compelling enough to the American people that he was fit to run for the next 4 years. And I think, so the top level thing is that if you walked away from that debate and you are an honest person, there is no way. And the crazy thing is CNN, MSNBC, all the sort of left-leaning media outlets, they came out yesterday. Dude, they stabbed Biden in the back. They stabbed Biden in the back. These are news organizations that have had Biden's back for the past couple of years now, defending everything he's done. They came out, Anderson Cooper, Van Jones, the David Axelrod, the people that are the core Democratic strategists. And they were like, he has to resign. He has to resign. I mean, that was the argument they were making. And I'm just like, wow, that's incredible. What is the core reason I think Trump won? Illegal immigration. Trump kept putting every argument back to the board. It's no different than 2015. Trump came down the escalators in 2015 and he says, we have to do something about illegal immigration. And at that time, I don't think the illegal immigration issue was as big of an issue as it is right now. Trump kind of used that as a scapegoat to kind of make his entry and into why he should win. Now there actually are some legitimate problems with legal immigration. And every time Biden talks about Social Security, Trump was like, no, the illegal immigrants are gonna ruin our budget, which means we're not gonna have Social Security. Every time Trump talked about the economy, Biden talked about the economy, Trump was like, nope, the illegal immigrants are taking all the jobs. And there are some arguments for that. Obviously, he's being a little hyperbolic there, but it was up to Biden to be like, no, he's wrong on that. It's up to Biden to reel him in. It's up to Biden to be like, this guy's a lunatic. He has no idea what he's talking about. He wasn't able to do that. He did not have an answer to the illegal immigration argument. And I think that was the toughest part of the night. Let's watch a couple things from the debate. First, let's look at Trump's team's 90-second ad of the recap of the debate. Obviously, it's from Trump's team, so they picked the worst moments. But the fact that these moments happen for Biden, it just goes to show I don't think the Democrats can put him up as their candidate.
Vote for making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with.
See how Trump looks at him there right there? He's like, is this guy okay?
Everything we have to do with.
You see how Trump looked at him again? He does a double look, the double look of like, is this guy for real right now? This is the first moment. This was 5 minutes into the debate. This is when I started tweeting and I was like, oh my God, he can't talk. Like he really can't finish the sentence.
Dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America.
I didn't even know we had 1 trillionaire in America, but Biden said we have 1,000.
I mean, billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
So you know how people thought, oh, well, Trump, if they take away the mic, Trump can't interrupt. And as a result, Biden's going to be Biden, but like Trump's not going to have the chance to like actually debate and interject. That actually was the best decision for Trump. Because in 2020, when he interrupted, he seemed obnoxious. He seemed impatient. Like it just did not seem presidential at all. Trump just let Biden talk and Biden could not talk. Like objectively speaking, I'm so not proud today to be an American knowing that is the guy running our country. Not because I disagree with his politics, because he cannot speak. How could he decide what to do in Israel or Ukraine or negotiate with world leaders? I mean, like, there's just no way. Someone else has to be running the show. It cannot be Joe Biden. And it's just really sad to kind of see how that is playing out. Here's another couple clips I want to show you guys. This was one of the clips where Trump basically said he doesn't understand what Biden is saying.
Sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
And see again, and the moderators immediately got out of that because they were like, all right, he has no idea what he's saying, and so they would quickly transition. And that just went bad for Biden because the world could see that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Here's another part from Trump.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump? I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
And now, so first of all, that was hilarious. Second of all, look at how Biden's looking at him. This was another point of criticism. He kept looking at him like Trump was the Grim Reaper or something. Like he kept looking at him like he was scared. And it was just like the 50 million people yesterday are looking at this guy with his mouth open, staring at Trump, and it's just not a good look.
The board, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do is leave it.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump? I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Okay, so that right there, I thought that was one of the best moments of the debate because my argument for Trump in this debate was that he needed to call out Biden's mental fitness without seeming aggressive, right? No one wants to vote for the obnoxious jerk that's making fun of someone who's in a bad situation. But if you can kind of do it in a nuanced way everyone can kind of like laugh about it, but also realize that, oh, he's not a jerk. He's just pointing out the obvious. And in that moment, which happened like 10 minutes into the debate, Trump's like, dude, I just, it's like when someone writes a really long post and then someone on Twitter comments, I'm happy for you, but I'm not reading all of that. It's like, it's just kind of funny, right? It's like, he was just like, I don't know what the guy's saying, dude, but like, anyway, like I had the best economy. All Biden had to do was not cause inflation. And then we were, things were going to be okay. The other thing that was important about this debate was that Trump kept saying, I gave you the best economy. You just have to not mess it up. And he kind of got away with that argument. Now, there's a lot of nuance to that argument, and there's all these different narratives you can spin. But in a nutshell, most Americans did feel the economy was good. COVID happened. I think, if you're reasonable, you don't really blame Trump for COVID, and you don't blame the economy crashing because of Trump in that last year of his administration, because like you just can't put COVID as the reason for why Trump had a horrible presidency for the economy, because that was like a black swan event. But Trump made the argument that, hey, I gave you a good economy. You got a bunch of jobs off of the rebound of my administration, because unemployment jumped up to 10%, and then it started coming down because like the economy opened back up again. All you had to do was not inflate the economy, and then you printed a ton of money via stimulus and all this shit, and that allowed the economy to inflate, which led to all these problems. So that was, another argument where he was like, hey, you messed up the economy that I gave you. Did you see him getting walked off the stage? Yes. So here's Jill Biden, his wife, walking him off the stage. If you look at this dude, it's tough, man. He's not able to walk down the stage. He's just not. It is very, very tough. It's really, it's bad. It's bad. And then here's another clip by Jill Biden that this one I just couldn't believe. So at their after debate party, she congratulated Joe on winning. And the way she congratulated them makes me feel that Jill knows that he can't debate. There's no way that he knows he can't debate, but she's acting like he can. So let's play this right here.
Did you know, Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Dude, it sounds like she's talking to a child.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the
That's like you getting like a A+ on your social studies test when you're in 4th grade, and your mom's like, "Oh, you did such a good job. You worked hard. You got a good grade. You studied. This is what happens when you study. You work hard. You get a good grade." Like, what's going on, bro? That was insanity. This is actual insanity. This is coming from an American citizen who's being pretty objective about what's going on here. This is just like, no, this does not make any sense. This absolutely does not make any sense. We had top Democratic strategists come out last night and say that Biden needs to drop out. Here's one of the Democrats reacting to it. Most people think Gavin Newsom is going to get on the ticket, and his futures. There's like websites where you can bet on politics. Gavin Newsom's price just went up last night as well.
That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all.
That's Van Jones. Van Jones used to work in the Obama administration when Biden was the VP. It was tough, bro. It was really, 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 really tough. Here's one more clip, and then we'll move on. But last clip about World War III, foreign policy, things of that nature.
Challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins. And you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane.
So this is that final point, that final clip, when Trump said, I would rather be chilling on a beach, but I had to come back because Biden was so bad. My dad burst out laughing, dude. My dad burst out laughing. The average person, the average American is someone like my dad who's just sitting there, who works hard all day, comes home, gets some dinner, wants to watch some TV and relax, does not care about politics that much, but obviously they're going to care about who they vote for. And this was their first time to get exposed to what's happening in the presidential election. Trump made my dad laugh like 5 times last night. He resonated with my dad. He actually was personable. He was like funny. You know, when he says, oh, I didn't want to run, but Biden was so bad I had to run. My dad is like, dude, what the hell? Like it's just hilarious because he's framing Biden as such a bad president that he had to bring Trump, himself out of retirement just to be able to stop how bad of a president that he was. Obviously, that's hyperbolic and like that's not like, it's just a funny thing to say. But the point is he resonated with people. The other way he resonated with the average American is because he kept saying that Biden doesn't have an argument for not only illegal immigration, but Ukraine. My dad has no idea why we sent $200 billion to Ukraine. You can argue about the nuance of democracy and like we need to protect them from Russia and Russia will invade Poland if they invade Ukraine. Valid points that you can make if you are in support of that war. Biden in no way, and you are lying to yourself if you say Biden actually made an argument for why we deserved to give Ukraine $200 billion. There was just no argument. There was no reason. And there probably is a really good reason. You can make a really good argument, but the people like my dad, the average American, they don't know why we gave Ukraine $200 billion. So in their head, they're like, well, why are we giving these guys this much money? Why are we spending this much money? Why is inflation this high? Why do we print so much money during Biden's term? Like there's so many questions that were unresolved. Illegal immigration was unresolved as a question. Abortion, the biggest thing that Biden was able to potentially argue on, he didn't really frame Trump as the candidate who's going to take away reproductive rights. And there just needed to be more nuance there in terms of him landing the punch. And he just wasn't able to do that. Zelensky is the best salesman ever. He comes by and he gets 60 million every time he comes. Yeah, 60 billion every time he comes. It was bad, dude. It was bad for Biden. And again, I don't care if you support Biden or Trump. Like I truly could care less. I don't even like talking about politics. This is not something I thrive on. We don't talk about politics a lot on the show. We're covering politics because it affects the stock market and because the debate is important. But objectively speaking, I could get the smartest debate minds in the country that I've had experience with. And I know a lot of people in this community, and we could have been judging that debate. That would have been a 10-0 decision for Trump. I could have picked 30. That would have been a 30-0 decision for Trump. Biden would have not have gotten a single vote because it's about perceptual dominance. It's about arguments that actually punches that land. And Trump just didn't land any punches. He just didn't land any punches. Michael says, Amit is part of the cult. He didn't watch Trump. He was only looking for Biden faults. See, anyone who says something like that, I genuinely don't think you were seeing the same debate that I saw. If Biden had landed punches, I would be saying Biden landed a punch there, Biden landed a punch there. Within the first 5 minutes, he cannot speak. He can't speak, dude. Like it's like you feel bad for him. You feel bad that this guy is the president of the United States and he cannot put a sentence together. And it's like you can vote for whoever you want to vote for. And I don't think this debate defines the election per se, but I think there are a lot of people that were independent in this country that were potentially thinking of voting Trump. They just wanted to think, can Biden assure me that he's going to be the president for the next 4 years? And I can trust when he's in office, he's making decisions, he's calm, he's collected, he's strong, he understands his ideas. And Biden didn't give them that reassurance. Now, I think if they replace Biden with someone like Newsom, although that's also going to be a hard election to win for Newsom, I think he's going to be able to hold his ground. And he's going to be able to like talk shit against Trump and not just like get walked over. And I think that might end up helping them. And it's not just me. Every Democratic strategist last night, watch any mainstream net. Rachel Maddow, for goodness sakes, MSNBC. She's like, yeah, Biden's got to go. So if you are a supporter of Biden and you look at core people in the Biden administration, in the media, and also that campaign operatives that are saying we got to get somebody else, it starts begging the question, well, who else is out there that can end up doing the job? And unfortunately, right now, it doesn't look like we have someone who can do this. Shabby Shambles, he's also shout out to Shabby in the chat. He's a lifelong Democrat. He was on Twitter yesterday. Even him, as a lifelong Democrat, looked at this debate and he was just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Biden to be the Democratic candidate. Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. I mean, look at this, dude. Border Patrol says, to be clear, we have never and will never endorse Biden. 25 million views. 25 million views in less than 24 hours. Biden says the Border Patrol endorsed me. This is one of the hottest topics on the election, illegal immigration. The Border Patrol is like, no. We have never endorsed Biden. And in fact, they endorsed Trump last night. They said, we wish Trump the best of luck in his debate. I mean, it was bad, dude. It was really, really bad. Also, there was a moment where both candidates were talking about Trump and his external affairs with adult actresses. I was with my mom and dad. So I said, me sitting with my mom and dad in the living room while both U.S. presidential candidates are discussing intercourse with adult actresses. Like, look, Trump got convicted for giving money to hush money to Stormy Daniels. If Biden was going to bring up this angle and be like, oh, well, Trump's a convict because he had sex with a porn star, it needed to be not awkward. And Trump got out of it. Trump just weaseled his way out of it by saying, I didn't have sex with a porn star. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know if Trump's lying. I don't know if Trump's not lying. But the point is, from a perception perspective, and again, this is coming from someone who has done debate for a decade. I understand how perception affects judges' decisions. I've been on the losing end on decisions that I think I shouldn't have lost, but perceptually I did lose, and I've had to deal with that my entire life. And I've been on the side of debates where I probably shouldn't have won, but I won. and my opponent's like, how the fuck did Amit win that debate? And I realized that there were certain moments where I grilled my opponent with either in cross-examination, whatever it is, and the judge decided right then and there. Trump made it seem like a joke that Biden was bringing up this whole convicted felon thing, and he framed him as being politically indicted, which he got away with, even if that's not correct. My mom, who doesn't care about politics, she asked me at one point, why don't we have anyone else besides Biden? Isn't he too old for this? He can't speak. My mom voted for Biden, by the way. So my mom is just like, wait a second, hold on. This is a Biden voter saying this man cannot speak. And if he can't speak, it's a tough situation. And again, last thing, I don't think he had a good argument for why we're spending billions to Ukraine. Trump made an argument that Zelensky is the greatest salesman ever. He comes in, gets $60 billion. Every time he comes in, Biden just had this weird look on his face every time he stared at Trump. He could not make an argument for why we're giving Ukraine this money, even if there's probably a good argument. And as a result of that, I think it was a really tough angle for Biden to end up winning. All right, there we go. That's what we got. That's what happened in the debate, and it was tough. We'll see what happens. September is going to be the next debate. I think I'll be able to stream it live. Me, Kevin got to stream it, and CNN didn't block him. So I don't think CNN blocked anyone. So I think we'll be able to stream the next debate, and we'll see how that plays out. Okay, so that's what we had in the context of the debate. Now, what's happening in the broader markets. For those that missed it, PCE came in with expectations at 2.6%. Tesla up 1.2% of the day. Tesla just hit $200 right now at 199.80. Hims at $20. GameStop is up 25.14. Let's look at Chewy. Roaring Kitty tweeted a picture of a dog yesterday, implying something about Chewy. Chewy was up 15%. Now it's down 2% in the pre-markets. Chewy probably kind of ran in a sort of meme-ish way. We'll see what happens if Roaring Kitty discloses that he has a position in Chewy, which would be insane if he does that. I don't think he's going to do that, but he did tweet a picture of that dog. No updates on GameStop from him. Just, I guess, holding his 9 million shares long. SoFi 662 up 1.15%. Robinhood 2276. Bank of America is up a little bit. JP Morgan is up. TFC is up. So the broader market is up. They did like the performance of the PCE reading, and I mean, it seems like they're pricing in Trump's debate victory and potential election win. And so markets did rally last night, but the PCE is the main reason why markets are up right now and why they're doing better. Amazon right here at 198. It's also going to be very important for Amazon to break above that 200 level psychologically, because that's going to be kind of same thing with Tesla in terms of breaking above 200 and then normalizing the ability to be above $200. Bronny to the Lakers was more impressive to the debate. Dude, did anyone, some people in the chat might not care about sports, but LeBron James' son was drafted by his team last night to the Lakers. That's kind of crazy, dude. That's pretty crazy. And I don't know. I didn't expect them to actually pick his son. It's going to be kind of wild if Bronny James, his son, and LeBron are playing on the same court. But that was also last night was just crazy. There was so many different areas. But yeah, now Bronny's a Laker, and we're going to see them both on the team together. Garcia says LeBron James is sleeping with a teammate's mom. That's absolutely hilarious. All right, we got a Peter Thiel interview. Wow, a rare Peter Thiel interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin. Apparently, they were at the Aspen Ideas Festival, and they were talking about different things. Here you go. Here's Peter Thiel on Elon and why he supported him, I believe, on the acquisition of Twitter.
Festival. I asked him what he thinks of Elon Musk's X platform and social media today. By the way, he used to work with Elon Musk, ended up actually pushing him out of the company at PayPal.
My judgment is, we should have just a lot more surface area for debate, discussion. And I think what Elon did with Twitter was, I think, extremely important. And I support it as an ideological project. Okay. I worry about it as a financial thing. I don't know if that works. The Elon question with Twitter was, are you really allowed to do this and keep the advertisers? And so that's where
would you make it harder?
It's super important what Elon did as a nonprofit, but it may not. It's going to be tough as a business.
What about Truth Social?
They have a few other problems they have to solve first.
Not something you'd invest in. You get your head around the $6 billion valuation.
If I wanted to secretly funnel money to the Trump campaign in violation, get around the campaign limitations, so the stock price goes up and he can sell some stock and fund his campaign, that might be a reason to invest.
Which is what Susquehanna founder Jeffrey Yass is doing, by the way. We covered that on the channel. That is absolutely happening. But very interesting. Peter Thiel's being super blunt, and he's being very explicit about his thoughts here.
Surgeon General was here in Aspen. And I think you've probably seen in the last couple of weeks that he came out and genuinely believes that social media and the Facebooks of the world really have done a real disservice to young people in the country. And I just wonder what you think of that as somebody who invested early in Facebook.
There's I think, I can't say that he's 100% wrong. The place where I always push back on is that I feel it's too easy to turn tech or the social media companies into the scapegoat for all of our problems. And so, yes, there is some kind of a interesting critique one can make of the tech companies. And if you ask how many of the executives in those companies, how much screen time do they let their kids use? And there's probably sort of an interesting critique one could make.
What do you do?
Not very much. And I think that's very...
What's not very much?
An hour and a half a week.
Hour and a half a week.
Something like that.
Guys, Peter has...
Here's Thiel on Bitcoin as well.
An Ideas Festival where I spoke to billionaire...
I suspect NVIDIA will...
Oh, he's talking about NVIDIA as well. Okay, so NVIDIA and Bitcoin.
I think it will maintain its position for a while. I think the game theory on it is something like all the big tech companies are going to start to try to design their own AI chips, so they don't have to do the 10x markup to NVIDIA. And then how hard is it for them to do it? How long will it take? If they all do it, then the chips become a commodity and nobody makes money in chips.
I also asked Thiel about TikTok, given his early investment in Facebook, and whether he thinks that TikTok is a national security threat.
We are incompetent and slow and bureaucratic, and we will never get our act together in dealing with the problems of China until the day they invade Taiwan, and then it will be shut down within 24 hours. And since I think there's a 50-50 chance that China will invade Taiwan in the next 5 years, my advice to the TikTok CEO was you should take all your people and computers and get them out of China, because once Taiwan gets invaded, it'll be too late. So that's my advice. But you don't need to worry about us doing anything before then.
He's putting a 50-50 chance on that, by the way. And Becky and Joe, I know I had showed you a clip of Peter talking about Bitcoin earlier, and we were looking actually for a different clip because he really made a market call that is very succinct, and I want to show you that right now.
Have you sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. I've you know, there are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, and I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here.
That clip is even longer, and hopefully maybe we'll show you some of that. You're going to be able to find all this, by the way, online. I'll show.
Interesting. That's actually a couple things by Thiel right there. He says NVIDIA will probably, it seems like he wanted to say NVIDIA is a cyclical business and it's going to have some issues. I mean, that's kind of the undertones of what he was talking about that I got from that, but he does believe they're going to maintain a dominant position for a couple years now, which I think is the case. I mean, you could make an argument after listening to that shareholder meeting that they might be the dominant player for the next 7 years because no one's going to catch up to them. The odds of that happening are low given no one wants to keep paying NVIDIA forever. But I think for the next 24 months, NVIDIA is going to be dominant. On Bitcoin, him saying it's not going to dramatically rise from here at what, 60,000? Interesting. So Thiel is kind of bearish Bitcoin. He doesn't really think there's a ton of upside momentum from there. I wonder what's his logic behind that. I would love to see kind of the full thoughts there. But again, Thiel seems very practical, right? So when he's talking about X, he's like, oh yeah, Elon did a really good thing for like humanity, but I'm not sure if it's going to turn into a business. Again, that's how you know this guy really deeply thinks about business at the intersection of capital appreciation, right? He really tries to understand the nuance of if something is valued, overvalued, how we can understand if it can grow bigger to be in the future. And so with X, I actually disagree with him on X. I think X is going to keep growing. I think Elon's creating a platform that inevitably is going to keep attracting people and it's going to be more valuable, not more valuable than like Instagram or something, but it's going to compete in terms of value and monetarily that'll allow it to continue to grow. Just as a user of the platform, I think it's like, it's a product experience that a lot of people will appreciate. The problem is most people don't want to like talk about their thoughts all day. And it's like actually a lot of work to come up with like unique ideas. Whereas on Instagram, you can just post your like breakfast and like your friends can like comment on it. And that's where you get your dopamine. Most friend circles are not on Twitter. Twitter is a very creator audience type of platform, something like YouTube, whereas Instagram is an ecosystem of friends. And, you know, if you had a party last night in college, your friends are going to be posting about it the next night on Instagram. Everyone's going to be kind of in those circles consuming that content, which is going to create more advertising dollars for Instagram and on Meta. But that's not the same for Twitter. So Twitter has to always figure out different ways to kind of create the ability for people to actually want to be on the platform. Okay. Interesting thoughts from Thiel on all of those subjects here today. Nike down 16%. Again, I don't know if Nike's a buy the dip at all. There's nothing in that earnings call that said that they are going to change things other than we hope we can change things. So if you're buying Nike, you're betting on the hope that they will figure out how to revitalize the brand, compete with Hoka shoes and On sneakers and Lululemon and stuff. And it's not going good for Nike. Let me actually show you a post by Jonah, who's been a little bearish Nike over the past few months, and what he had to say on this. So he said, Nike missed annual revenues and hints it will be another tough year. If you are bullish on Nike, I challenge you to walk into a Nike store and then compare the aesthetics and quality of footwear and apparel to Lulu, Gymshark, etc. Nike is in big trouble, but it seems like lots of investors refuse to recognize this issue. I walked into a Nike store last summer in Nashville and walked out 2 minutes later because it was just a bunch of ugly shirts that said Nike across the chest in bright colors. That's not what people want. I mean, he's right about that. Like, you just can't get away with putting a swoosh on a shirt. Like, people have different tastes now. There's just like, it's not 2 decades ago. Nike needs to fire the majority of their design team and bring in some fresh blood. Otherwise, they'll continue to lose market share. I'm not joking when I say Nike could have another 30% downside if they don't get their shit together. Nike is stale. They lost their coolness factor many years ago, and it's going to be hard to get it back. Although Abercrombie & Fitch pulled it off, so maybe Nike can as well. Now, one of the things about Abercrombie & Fitch is they expanded their operating margins by 700%, which is another reason why they were able to get kind of their cool factor back, along with making the financials work. Nike, and again, I haven't gone through all the financials, but gross margins of 44% is not going to cut it when you're not growing anymore and you lower guidance. You're going to have to revitalize the brand. And I'm not sure exactly what they can do to revitalize it right now. So I think on the Nike dip, you got to just, think there's a game plan for Nike if you really want to get deeper into that dip. Okay, what else we got? Hims is up a little bit. We have the market opening in about 4 minutes. McDonald's is down a little bit. Carvana is down a little bit. Again, the banks are doing well. The banks did pass their stress tests yesterday. We talked about that. The stress test is where the Fed goes to the banks and they say, hey, if we kept rates higher for longer, would that cause your banks to become insolvent? All the banks passed the test, which is a good thing because that means that they're able to do dividends, buybacks, capital distribution. Like they're able to actually survive if the Fed were to not cut rates. But given the PCE reading we got this morning, which if you're just joining, the PCE reading was good. It does look like we're setting up for a potential September cut, if not July cut. And maybe July is a little too early. But if we get CPI in 2 weeks, which is way better than what the market expects, maybe we get from 3.2 to 2.9. I think the Fed's going to have the freedom to definitely get excited to do a cut. Bank of America lowered their price target from Nike at 104. Yeah, they're probably going to get some downgrades a little bit later today. Why is DNA dumping so hard? Where's DNA's? Are they dumping again today? Well, they're up a little bit. So they've been down because, Kathy's selling. Like the business is starting to kind of go out of business. They're going to have to do a reverse split at some point. So that's why DNA has been dumping. I did see some people last night that were buying the dip on DNA. It's just a tough dip to buy. I know it's 30 cents and people are like, oh, if I buy 1,000 shares and it goes to $5, I'm rich. It's like, it's tough, dude. Like, I feel like you're not a real investor unless you've had the moment in life where you buy a penny stock because it's like under $1 and you're like, well, if it goes to $4, which is not a lot of money, I make so much money. It's like, I've had that moment 5 years ago, right? With a biotech. Like, it is what it is. It happens. But DNA is in a tough position and they're not going to. Kathy Wood sold another. Well, I didn't check. I didn't check yesterday. What does she buy and sell? Let's check right now live. Kathy, she sold 2 days ago. Yesterday, Kathy Wood sold another 27 million shares of Ginkgo. Wow. Sorry. 27 plus 9 is what? 36 million shares of Ginkgo, bro. Holy crap. That's a lot of shares. That's a lot. So she's getting out of it. She's getting out of it. And she's getting out of Teladog. It looks like she's getting out of Zoom as well. She sold 372,000 shares of Zoom. It seems like they're getting out of all those positions. And I guess we'll have to see where they end up allocating it. All right, we have the market open in about 45 seconds or 55 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, last night was the debate. It was a very interesting debate, but, outside of the debate, we actually do have a stock market. And although it seems like the future is priced in that Trump ended up winning the debate, the broader market still has to continue and things have to happen for the market to continue its dominance this year. Palantir right here at 25.30. Now, today is a Friday. We've had a good week. Not been a bad week, so let's see if we get a little bit of sell-off going into Friday, just going into the weekend in general, or we can maintain our momentum. TJ will be on in about 20 minutes as well, and we'll be discussing options and a bunch of moves we made in the portfolio, and so we'll be discussing that, but going to be interesting to see how the market kind of interacts with the news that we got last night and with the PCE inflation news that we got this morning. All right, Friday, June 28th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. S&P 500, 546.83, up 0.08% on the day. So not really getting momentum from the PCE read. You see this red candle right here. Market's kind of dumping it even after a good PCE. Again, if that PCE came in at 2.5, I think we would be at like 552 on the S&P. We would be up like 2%. But we did not come in below expectations. We came in line with expectations, which is why the market is probably just like, we need to see a little bit more evidence before we continue to move forward. Hims at $20. Tesla, $199. Oh, Tesla's going to do 200. Look at that. Wow. Tesla keeps getting rejected at one. Look at that. At 199.99, it went red. Look at that. Got immediately rejected at 199.99. That's hilarious, dude. That's hilarious. There you go. There you go. Look at that. You see that 199.93? It just gets hit. There you go. That's what we needed. 200. Just burst it through that 200. It needed a ton of buys. I didn't know what the book volume was right there, but I would imagine it's probably a couple thousand shares and just went right through above 200 on Tesla. If you've been buying the dip on Tesla for the majority of the year, if this has been the stock you've been buying the dip on, you're seeing some real green at 200. Nvidia at 124, SoFi 658, Apple at 215, Robinhood 2268 on the day, Carvana 134. By the way, I got a DM from someone who transferred $1.3 million to Robinhood. You guys know I showed you the $350,000 picture. Someone texted me last night or DM me on Twitter. They're like, yo, bro, I'm also on the Robinhood train. 1.34 million, bro. Like, I think those deposit numbers are just going to be pretty incredible going into June. Palantir right here, 25.36. So Palantir maintaining their green candle on the day, up 0.67%. Micron getting a little bit of green at 132. Amazon 196 being sold off at that 198 level. HIMS at 2013. Tesla again getting sold off at 200. It keeps getting rejected at 200. It'll break through, but it's not enough momentum to keep it there, which is okay. I mean, the point is it's getting to that level and eventually it'll break through on positive catalyst, but it is beyond that sort of 185, 170 level that Tesla was stuck at. Bitcoin, 61,400. Not bad on Bitcoin. Where's DJT? DJT is up. Oh, wow. Sold off. DJT was up 9%. Now it's at $38. The put premiums on DJT, if you sell puts on it, are just insanity. I mean, because people are buying puts because, obviously the company at $6 billion is ridiculously overvalued. It doesn't make any sense. But the Trump supporters essentially are, and potentially Trump institutional supporters are buying it. So the put premiums are there, and there's like a 50% put premium for the stock after the election. Meaning if you buy like an at the money put on November 15th or whatever, if Trump loses, then obviously, this thing is going to tank. But if he wins, it's going to go up. So the premiums are high there. It's a tough little gamble, but that is one of the reactions that they are having towards the debate last night. Tesla right here at 200 again, 200.1. Walgreens up 1%. Walgreens had its worst day since 1972 yesterday. Not a good day for Walgreens. Dell back to 140. It was at 130 to start the week. Now at 139. SMCI at 879. Eli Lilly broke out to like 914 in the pre-markets. Now it's at 909. Eli Lilly, another fantastic year that it had. Where is CMG? Chipotle, 62.65, up 0.3% on the day. Chipotle not doing too bad. Rivian up another 1%. Now, Rivian tanked yesterday 7%. It went from 18 to 13, and it saved itself from falling even further, and then it rebounded because they said that their deliveries were 3,000 ahead of expectations. So instead of doing 10,000, they did 13,000, which the market was like, happy about. And obviously they got the capital investment of $5 billion. So Rivian right here at $14.59. It was at $10 to start the week. So still an amazing week for Rivian. ARM down a little bit. FedEx maintaining its gains at $295. That's up 15% for the week. Shopify back to $67. That's where it was back in April. CRM recovering nicely with Salesforce at $256 and Snowflake up a little bit. PayPal at $58.45. Broadcom $15.89. Intel $30.84. And then Google here at 183. Google topped out at 187 yesterday as well. So there you go. There you go. Okay. What are your thoughts on Baba? Well, it's the same thoughts. China. I mean, you just saw Thiel say that China's going to invade Taiwan. He's a pretty smart guy. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if there's a 50-50 chance that China invades Taiwan, there's no way you can buy Alibaba. Like, you just can't hold these. And I think the people that buy Chinese stocks, they just completely discount the Taiwanese risk. And I don't know if you can do that, dude. Like, I don't know if you can be arrogant enough to be like, well, they're not going to invade Taiwan. It's like, because if they do, this holding is gone. But granted, to give them some credit, isn't every holding going to collapse if they invade Taiwan? Like, that's not going to be good for any. Like, every outside of Palantir, maybe Palantir goes up because they just get a crap ton of demand. But pretty much. Dude, if China invades Taiwan, it's going to be the craziest thing of our lifetime. It's going to be crazier than anything else we've seen. It's just going to be insane. Sound got 24% shorted. Yeah, SoundHound right now, where are they? They are up 1.5% of the day. The short interest on DJT, I believe, is above 20% as well. So there's definitely a potential of a squeeze if it like really starts going, if people start betting on it a lot more. It might be World War III. Yeah, it might be World War III. I mean, I don't think anyone could deny it. It could literally be the start of World War III. It's just a tough situation to be in, because what is the United States going to do? Are we going to let that happen? Because that's not the best thing. But if we try to get into the war, that's also definitely not a good. I mean, like, one could argue maybe we should let it happen just to not be part of the war. Like, it's just so difficult to kind of navigate how that plays out and what would end up happening there. So that would definitely not be good for the broader economy. S&P 547 now going up 0.25. Again, Tom Lee says 15,000 by 2030. His points yesterday, we talked about it, are actually pretty nuanced, and they make a lot of sense when you put it together. The price target is, the price target, but the actual argument for why the S&P can compound 20% annually over the next 6 years, there is an argument to be made on why future trends and global demographic shifts could lead to a market that really expands. Tesla right here at 200.47. So again, Tesla trying to maintain this 200 level. Robinhood right here, 22.99, 1.77%. There you go, $23 on Robinhood, 1.86% up on the day. And then you got Palantir here at 25.47 as well, trying to break into that 25.50 level. We need to close above 23 on Robinhood and 25.50 on Palantir. Those are the two levels that we have to close at to maintain some of the momentum. SMCI down 0.92% on the day. Xyla Film and Photography says, I work for a Taiwanese ESL company and none of my students think the invasion is happening, and they say this has been going on for 50 years. A lot of them say it's a Western news headline. I mean, you could, that is a fair point. The problem is if you actually listen to Xi Jinping in conferences, he says word for word, we need to reunite the motherland with Taiwan. They don't recognize Taiwan as a real country. Now, granted, is it a low probability? I would say yes, only because China's economy is doing well and Xi Jinping doesn't want to mess up the economy. But to say that there's no shot, I think is living in a bubble. I don't think it's Western media. I think it's like just not believing in Xi Jinping. And if you don't want to believe him, that's fine. But like, if you do believe him, or if you take him a bit more seriously, then I think he has the vicinity to potentially act on this. I think it's different than what's his name in North Korea and Kim Jong-un say we're going to launch a nuclear weapon. Like that is like, all right, yeah, like no, you're not. But like Xi Jinping is ruthless, dude. He during COVID, he did whatever the hell he wanted to do. China has a social score system. Like it would not surprise me if they actually tried to go for it. But I do think, given their economies in the gutter, they probably wouldn't. Tesla right here at 201, now breaking above $200. Bitcoin 61,000. Chewy is down 7%. Look at that. Chewy's actually down 7%. Incredible. Chewy, Roaring Kitty tweeted about this yesterday. This one's getting hit a little bit. If he comes out and he says, or if GameStop comes out and they said, we're using the $4 billion that we raised to buy Chewy or to buy Chewy shares, that would be insanity. But if that happens, that would just make the plot a lot thicker. GameStop at 25.31. Evan says, remember right before Russia invaded Ukraine, the U.S. said they were mobilizing, but the local people there still didn't believe Russia would invade. Yeah, that's the other thing. If local Taiwanese people believe that, China's not going to invade, it's because they're used to a way of life and they don't expect that way of life to be disrupted until it gets disrupted. Also, although local Taiwanese people may be saying that, like average citizens, everyone should watch the 60 Minutes episode on Taiwan and China. The one of the head generals of the Taiwanese military, I remember watching this a year ago. He said, it's not a question of if they invade us, it's a question of when. And he said that with the most serious look on his face. And so I think a lot of head officials in Taiwan obviously are, scared that it could happen. And they just want to be prepared in case it does happen. But Taiwan has made themselves one of the most valuable countries in the world because of this company that's on the screen, TSM. TSM up 2% on the day, $905 billion market cap. I mean, talk about a country that was relatively ignored on the global, economic landscape. And they built a company inside of that country that makes them the most important country/company in the world in case that country were to get invaded. Like the US, the UK, London, or Germany, like no one, France, no one can let TSM go down the drain, aka Taiwan getting invaded, because TSM is just so important to everyone's Western way of life. So it's going to be very, very important. GameStop right here at 25.26 to make sure Taiwan is safe, and TSM is pretty much what guarantees their safety. It's kind of a, American political game theory. It's like if you become so powerful, you get allies that want to keep you in power because it's in their self-interest to make sure that you're powerful. NVIDIA does not want TSM to go anywhere, so they're going to give us, if the United States asked NVIDIA for a loan of $100 billion today to make sure that Taiwan was protected, I'm pretty sure, I don't even know if NVIDIA has $100 billion in cash, but you get my point. I'm pretty sure NVIDIA would do that because they need to make sure that TSM maintains their momentum so that they can continue to be a $3 trillion company. Micron at 132, JPM at 200, TFC at 38, SoFi A little bit of a breakout here at 65 or not 65, $6.58. Nvidia 124, and then Robinhood right here above $23 on the day. Chris says, once you get nukes, no one is going to invade you. Yup, that is another important point in terms of mutually assured destruction, which is one of the reasons why, China, US, and Russia have not fully gone to war. Nike's down 17%. Nike's gotten hit. Nike is down 17%. What else do we have? So we have Nike right there. Is China prepared to lose half their population just for an island? Yeah, I think that's the existential question. That is the existential question. And I would hope, and I think a lot of people would hope that, that would not end up being what they want to do. Bitcoin running up a little bit right here. The Bitcoin inflows yesterday, I think, were decent. We had 11. It was decent. We had $11 million of inflows. Dude, the inflows have dried up. They've absolutely dried up. Goodness gracious. Just not been good. Look at this. 31 million, 21 million, 11 million. It's kind of weird, bro. Like, we were going from $100 million days right back down to below 50 million. So that's definitely not helping Bitcoin. But also it's not red. So at least that's not, Bitcoin necessarily being hurt. One of the things Tom Lee did say on his podcast today with Bloomberg is that he thinks the S&P probably goes higher by the end of the year, closer to 6,000. But he says there's no reason that has to happen in a straight line. And what he means by that is, like, he thinks we could have a pretty aggressive dip, Tesla right here at 201, before we recover, just given how well the markets have done. Because if we just go straight to 6,000, it's a straight line versus kind of falling a little bit, to like the 5,000 level, 51 level, 52 level, and then making our way back up. He says that that's a possibility and there's no reason it can go, or it should just go straight up. So it's really going to be a question of the resiliency of Q2 earnings, in my opinion, to show the market that money market funds deserve to leave the money markets. Broader capital deserves to diversify, and that there is breadth to this rally. It's not just concentrated in some names. And if it is just concentrated in some names, those names still deserve more appreciation because of the earnings that they're putting up. And so Q2 earnings is going to be incredibly important to see how it ends up playing out. Where's PayPal? Let's take a look at PayPal. PayPal has just been in the gutter again. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with PayPal. 58.14. There's not much to say on PayPal other than they're buying back 5 billion shares. Its market cap is $60 billion. If I was Alex Chris, I would come out and say, hey, we're buying back another 2 billion shares. They have 9 billion in cash. They can afford to do $7 billion of buybacks. They're using their free cash flow this year, which is about 5 billion, to do the buybacks. If they added another 2 billion of buybacks, I think at some point, private equity firms, Apollo management, activist investors, even Warren Buffett have to take a look at it and be like, dude, they're going to almost buy back the entire company. Like, at some point, there has to be some value here. And PayPal can't be just a dead company where maybe we should look at it more seriously. But that's not happening, currently at the moment. TJ, I'll be sending you the link right now. TJ is going to be joining in about 10 minutes, and he'll be live, and we will be discussing all things in the world of options and what moves that we made with the public $500,000 portfolio this week as well. Okay, cool. So we talked about Nike. We talked about NVIDIA. We also talked a little bit about Peter Thiel's thoughts on what was going on in the broader market. Let me pull this clip up right here and discuss a little bit more in terms of what's going on with the broader. Well, actually, let's play this one and then we'll keep going from there. So we looked at Thiel talk about SpaceX and talked about Bitcoin. Here's Thiel on who he thought actually he's voting for in 2024. Here we go.
Andrew spoke to billionaire investor Peter Thiel at the.
Hold a gun to my head. I'll vote for Trump. I'd rather have him vote than Biden. I'm not going to give any money to his super PAC. I'm going to be less involved in all these ways. And man, look, it is. And then I don't know. I think Trump will win. I think he will win quite solidly. It's not. I don't think it's going to even be close. And then my pessimistic look ahead function is after he wins, there will be a lot of buyer's remorse because the elections are A/B tests. if you ask me to make a pro-Trump argument, I wouldn't, but I can probably come up with anti-Biden arguments. And Biden is not going to make a pro-Biden argument. He's going to make anti-Trump arguments. And it's these two different hate factories that we have targeted at each other. And that's the way the politics work. And my judgment is Trump will easily win that.
Very interesting, dude. Now, remember, Trump was one of the, Thiel was one of the largest Trump supporters back in 2016. He like passionately came out on the RNC stage and said he voted for Trump. I don't think Thiel was happy with how Trump ended up running the country, primarily because I think he believed Trump kept spending and he thought Trump would stop spending. Tesla above 202, amazing. 202 right now, 2.3%. And right now he's basically saying, yeah, Biden will lose, but it doesn't mean Trump is winning. It just means Biden is losing. And so as a result of that, Trump will probably win in a landslide, but it's not like he wants to vote for him. And I think the obvious reason, if he would want to vote for him, is he would donate to his campaign. He would publicly endorse him. He's not doing any of that. So it seems like Thiel is, honestly, what it seems like is Thiel has lost faith in the political system. And he's just like, he doesn't care about getting involved, but he's already so rich. So it's like, I guess he's just focusing on himself and like his money, but he doesn't care that much anymore about politics because he realizes both politicians are going to spend money and not necessarily stop some of the issues that we have going on. I think the biggest thing, whoever gets elected, Trump or Biden, the spending has just got to get under control. I mean, dude, we're adding $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. There's 300 days in the year, 365. That's 3 trillion. It's just not, there's no way it's sustainable. There's just no way. And so I think that's a spending argument more than an interest rate argument. But the question is going to be which one can actually stop spending. And I don't know if any of them can. Robinhood right here at 22.67, Carvana at 135, SoFi 650, Nvidia at 125.38 on the day. We got some Apple news. Apple smartphone shipments in China surged 40% year over year in May. Oh, Apple should be up on that. Apple should be up. Yeah, Apple's up a little bit on that. Foreign branded phone shipments increased by 1.42 million to 5 million, up from 3 million last year. That's not bad. 40% growth year over year in China, which has not been that good for the past couple months for Apple. That seems to be a good piece of news, at least for where Apple can be further going. We got some Fed arguments or some Fed voter remarks from Bauman. They said, I expect only modest progress on lowering inflation this year. Upside risk to inflation persists. Monetary policy is currently restrictive. I remain cautious in waiting the future Fed rate changes. I'm still willing to raise rates again if inflation doesn't ease. That's different from Bostic. Bostic said that we're probably going to cut rates. So I think the Fed knows they're going to cut rates, but some presidents are being less dovish than other presidents. Brazil unemployment dropped to a 9-year low. That's good for Brazil. Seeing some momentum there. Things are changing for Brazil. Brazil's unemployment rate averaged 7.1% in the 3 months leading up to May of 2024, the lowest since January 2015. So good for Brazil across the world. And then Eurozone inflation expectations have currently fell to 2.8% from 2.9% in April, which is also good for decreased inflation expectations. Lior says, I think the most telling comment Thiel made was that both Trump and Biden were running two hate camps, which continues to be the biggest problem we have along with many other Western countries. Yeah, it's more so I hate you, you hate me, not here's what I can do to fix the problems. And that's what Trump did last night. I mean, if you watch the debate, Trump basically pointed out that Biden can't get anything done. And because he pointed out, like, Biden's bad. And here's the thing about debate, right? On debate, there's an affirmative side and there's a negative side. And the negative side gets the benefit. This is why when you flip a coin in debate, if you do competitive debate, most people, when they flip the coin, they would pick negative because the affirmative has to prove the topic is true, that something good should happen. So I debated, my last topic my senior year was the United States should ban the private ownership of handguns. It's basically like a reversal of the Second Amendment, right? And so if you're negative, all you have to prove is that the affirmative is bad. That's it. You just have to put some doubt in the judge's mind that you probably shouldn't vote for this new world the affirmative is talking about. If you're affirmative, you have to prove, you have an obligation to show that the world will be better if you believe in the affirmative's arguments. Trump was negative in this debate. All he had to do was prove that Biden's not the best. You should vote for something new. And Biden had the burden of saying, no, you voted for me 4 years ago. I did good things. And it's always easier to complain than to actually produce. And so the incumbent has the burden of producing results. The challenger could just be like, well, this guy's not doing anything. And he can just get away with complaining, And so I think for Trump, it was really easy for him to just complain And Biden, unfortunately, I think let him get away with a lot of the complaints and didn't really maintain the momentum. Is Trump good for Palantir? I actually am agnostic on this. I think Trump or Biden is good for Palantir. I think Palantir is becoming so important in the global landscape, in the DoD and in the commercial sector, that it doesn't matter who gets elected. I don't think we got a ton of money from Ukraine, by the way. For people saying, oh, the Ukraine is good for Palantir, I don't think we got any real money from Ukraine. We would know, dude, if we got like $1 billion, and like the numbers would definitely show. If we got $1 billion from Ukraine, I don't think we got a lot of money. And so I don't think the Ukraine war is necessarily helping Palantir. That's funding Palantir. I think we decided we would go there and help because, CARP philosophically believes that, a dictator shouldn't invade, but I don't think that means we got a lot of money. So whether it's Trump or Biden, I'm pretty sure we're going to get paid because the DoD, the military, the army, they're all transitioning to an AI-based world. And Palantir is going to be, the only company to really provide software in that place. So that's what we have in the context of Palantir. Now let's take one last look at the market before we have TJ come up. TSM at 175, Apple at 214, CMG Chipotle 63, DJT up 4%, S&P 548. S&P actually going a bit more green now. Tesla staying over that $200 level. Walgreens at 1240. Robinhood 2262, Nvidia 125. Nvidia going green. Wow, almost up 2%, 1.5%. And then GameStop here at 2530. Amazon at 197. So not that exciting of a market. We got PCE. Unfortunately, it wasn't below expectations, which would have ripped the market. It was in line with expectations, which is really good. It wasn't above expectations. And so market's green, but not super green. So not really too exciting, but definitely not bad on a Friday for this market. All right, time to bring up TJ the Wheel deal. We are going to discuss all the moves we've made in the $500,000 public portfolio. If you're not familiar for that, we're going to go through a scoreboard, discuss it, and then talk about trades that we also need to make because I think we have some capital that we have to deploy. TJ, what's up?
What's going on, Amit?
I haven't seen you wear a bandana before. I like the look. I like it.
I'm going to go to a little garage gym after, and I've been getting a lot of sweat in my eyes, dude. So this is not having hair is kind of a detriment to working out in the sweat box.
You need to get a Harley Davidson now. Now we need to see you on the motorcycle.
It's an Indian Chief. It's kind of like a Harley, but a different brand.
I love it.
Different brand. Anyway, dude, I want to start off with a little poem that my brother sent me.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Roses are red and violets are blue. Nothing says I love you like a little.
Oh boy. That was good. Dude, when they were arguing about the porn star thing on the debate, if Trump had said, I did not get any haktua from that lady, he would have won the election last night if he said that. He would have won the election.
So that's the shit I woke up to, dude. My brother sent me that at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, dude, you're crazy.
She signed with a talent agency. I think she's going to become big time now. All right.
Anyway, well, let's get into it, dude. Let's get into it, man. How are you doing? Anyway, congratulations. The channel keeps growing, dude. You're just absolutely crushing it, bro.
Well, first of all, congratulations to you as well, guys. If you don't know, TJ's YouTube, I'm putting in the description. He started a new podcast called Wheelers, and he's essentially talking with some of the smartest minds on YouTube when it comes to wheeling and dealing. And I personally watch the podcast. His live streams keep growing. Yesterday, he walked through a phenomenal example of end phase. End phase is a trade that he got into in June of 2023, starting at that $200 level. End phase ends up going to 72 at one point, and how he navigated the puts and the calls on that position. It was a really good episode yesterday, and I think everyone should check that out. So great stuff. And now we got to navigate my 500 grand and see what we're doing with that one as well.
For sure. So let's get started with the scoreboard, Amit. So total premiums collected, 65,790. Total open collateral is 311,500. Open P&L on shares owned is 2,400 to the good. So all in all, up 68,190 bucks in about 2 months.
So real quick, for the people that don't know what this segment is, this is where TJ and I take 500,000 of his about $5.5 million portfolio, and we wheel it. And what does wheeling mean? It means we sell options, puts, and calls on the equities we own. So the way to read this, we have used 311,000 in collateral. We've given that to our brokerage. The brokerage gave us back 65,000 in premium, And eventually, if we win on these contracts, we're going to get that 311,000 back. And we use that to make that return, which is about a 5% return. And it's not bad in the past 2 months.
No, not at all. And then this is how it happened. Hood's responsible for 16,265. Shop's responsible for 7,445. TSLL's been really good at 8,900. Hims, I need to talk to you about that one a minute. It's at 6,750 because I made a trade without you knowing.
Okay.
NVDL was good. That was that earnings play that we did on that leverage play on Tesla, 685. And then Path is good for 1,230 in premiums. And there's obviously 2,000 shares owned there. There's 300 shares owned of NVIDIA, and the premiums are good for 3,465. Snow's good for 2,720. And then INTC, there's 2,500 shares there, but it's also good for 2,330 in premiums, which seems high, but we'll have to verify that. I think it's because I bought 2,000 shares outright of Intel. We'll look. And then you gave me that play on BITX, the leverage play on futures for Bitcoin.
Yes.
And that brought in 16,000. So we've got, it's all there. It's all documented. Now we'll go to the actual portfolio and go from there. But what are your thoughts so far? I mean, how do you feel about the performance? Because we have left some money on the table as well. If we would play shop a little bit differently, we could have an extra $7,000 to $10,000 here so far.
I like it. I think at least, we've been able to navigate the position the way we have, and 65 on 311 is not bad. We did it on the tickers that we know pretty well. And yeah, we definitely left some upside with shop. But besides that, I think we're doing not bad at all.
I hear you. So let's go over the open positions, if you will. We've got the Intel covered calls. So all 2,500 of those shares are for sale at $31, expiring on 7/12.
And this one has been so interesting because Intel's literally been stuck between 30 and 31. So it's
Right.
actually done well. We might end up keeping these shares.
So right there, that substantiates the money that the spreadsheet said, $2,330. That makes sense. It's all right here. So it's just covered call premium that we received. This was a buy right strategy, guys. We didn't actually enter into cash secured puts. Intel it was in the go zone for us. So you're like, hey, buy 500 shares. I looked at it, I studied the charts, and I'm like, no, we're buying 2,500 shares.
Yep.
Because it was just, I felt like the downside was it was like we're practically already there unless the house had a basement. And I just felt like the upside was a lot higher than the downside. So that's the kind of risk reward that you're looking for in the market that doesn't always get presented on a regular basis. And I wanted to take advantage of it. But I also know that I don't think Intel is going to $50 or $60 tomorrow either. So it makes it very compelling to sell very aggressive cover calls against these shares.
Right. Yeah, and I like this one as well because I wanted to finally have some ownership over shares. So what we did, guys, here is we bought 2,500 shares. I wanted 500. TJ was like, nope, we're doing 2,500, which I like because I'm pretty convinced on Intel, given I've been studying them for about 6 months now. And we sold a covered call at $31, which means someone paid us premium to bet that Intel would be 31 by July 12th. Intel's been in a pretty aggressive range, a rigid range of 29 to 30.9, which is why I picked 31. And the premium is good. If it does get called away, we can roll it. Well, I mean, we can roll it before we get called away. But if it does get called away, we're not that emotionally attached to Intel, but there's a lot of other places to put the money. So it's a nice 2,500 cash grab within a month.
And you just said a mouthful there, Amit. What makes this whole thing work is that we're trying to keep the emotions out of it. And we're just playing a game of math. Do we like the stock here? Yes. Do we love it? We're kind of indifferent. So we're just literally just going to focus on the numbers and let the numbers tell us what we should be doing with these positions versus, oh my God, I'm so in love with Intel. It's got to be part of the portfolio because I can't go to the bar because they're going to know that I don't have Intel. And like, we're not playing any of those silly emotional mind games and screwing ourselves out of returns.
Right.
It's kind of like, okay, cool. If this one gets away from us, we'll put the money in Hood. We'll put the money in NVIDIA. I mean, there's other places that we'd probably rather have the money. This opportunity just kind of presented itself. And that attitude really serves you well whenever you're selling puts and calls.
Right.
So now let's talk about NVIDIA. There's a strangle going on here with NVIDIA, covered strangle, just in real basic layman's terms. It's whenever you own shares and you're selling covered calls against those shares, and you're also simultaneously have open cash secured puts. So if it goes up, your puts are going to be printing, your shares are going to be printing, but your covered calls are going to be challenged. If it goes down, your cash secured puts are going to be printing, but your cash secured puts are going to be challenged. Your covered calls are going to be printing, and you're going to be losing money on the shares. So you're guaranteed to win one side of the trade, and you'll manage the one that's going against you. So in short, that's a covered strangle.
So we bought 300 shares at 132. So we're down 1,600 on the shares themselves.
Correct.
And
strategies.
Okay, so let's start with the call, I guess, the 140 call.
So we've agreed to sell the 300 shares at 140 emit and picked up $1,155 for doing so. And I like our chances to hold on to these shares and rinse and repeat and keep bringing some more premiums through the door, but also with some upside because we own those shares at like $132.
Right. So it'd be $8 a share if we ended up having to sell them.
Correct. And then there's also, we liked it outright at 132.12. It stands to reason that we should be willing to buy more at 125. So that was the contract that we entered into. We're like, well, let's put some money up for 700 shares worth at 125. And the market paid us for that. And we picked the same strike price to initiate the coverage strangle. And that was 712. So we tied up the $12,500 times 7. That's your collateral. And for doing so, they paid us $2,310 as well. And these have obviously been challenged because NVIDIA has been under 125 for a minute, but now it's had a nice little bounce back. So now we're essentially in that sweet Goldilocks zone. Do you want to speak a little bit on the Goldilocks scenario here?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So basically, guys, we bought 300 shares of NVIDIA at 132. We sold a covered call at 140, but we sold a cash secured put at 125. So we need NVIDIA to be above 125 to not get assigned the shares in the cash secured put, but below 140 to not get our shares called away on the covered call. So there's a $15 spread of the Goldilocks zone where if we're at any price by the expiration of July 12th on both of those, then we get to keep all the premium that we collected and keep our shares and not have to buy another 700 shares, which is not a bad scenario.
So, and that's the beautiful thing about having a high conviction stock emit. It's whenever we entered into this scenario, we were bullish enough overall, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's the lifespan of NVIDIA at these levels. That's just me doing my own personal calculations.
Yep.
Could totally be wrong here, guys, because there's a lot of companies that are like, okay, we feel like we're kind of getting taken to the woodshed by paying all of these, all of this money, inflated money to NVIDIA because we can't get our shit together and make our own chips, right? That's essentially why NVIDIA is NVIDIA. Because they're like, we got the best chips. What do you want to dance with us? You're going to have to pay a premium, right? So then there's big companies that are like, hey, we can use our intellectual property and try to figure this shit out, circumvent the system, cut you out, but that's not going to happen right here, right now. It's just not. I don't care if your name's Apple, Meta, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen right now if you want to maintain the same quality that NVIDIA is offering you with their overpriced chips, if you will. So I think they have 3 to 5 years of being able to control the market prices, in my opinion. So I think that this play can be here for a pretty good while.
I think so too. I mean, if NVIDIA, look, the NVIDIA had a little bit of weakness during the week. It fell to 116 and everyone got scared and that dip got eaten up so quickly. I think we would have to worry more about our covered call than the put, to be honest, but it could go either way, So regardless, if we have to buy more shares, it's NVIDIA. And if we have to roll the contract, we're fine with doing that because we want to hold on because it's NVIDIA.
Exactly. So it's, I just think it's an awesome scenario and we didn't go so heavy. So a little teaching segment here is, even though it's super high conviction, we also know that we're kind of playing at the top of the market as well, right? Because what's the all-time high with NVIDIA? About 140 or so?
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's like 140 and some change, right? Because these covered calls, I think, were in the money for a hot minute during this time frame.
Yep.
So we're not really in a hurry to aggressively add to this position either. It would almost be kind of nice for us if NVIDIA were to go to like 110, 115, 110, because then now we can have a more substantial position in NVIDIA at more favorable prices. So I like the way that there was discipline here, and we didn't go all crazy buying 1,000 shares outright at 132, knowing damn well that in our minds, that's not really a great price. It might prove to be a great price 3 to 5 years from now, but it's not really a great price today.
Right. 2 comments here. Daniel says, also, if you were assigned the 125 shares, it'll lower your average. He's correct about that. Then you could sell calls at a lower price and receive a higher premium. Yep. So what he means by that is that 132 average, we have to sell a call above 132. Otherwise, we're losing money. So if we have to buy 700 shares at 125, maybe I think the average goes to like 129, 128. If that's the case, we can sell a call at 130 or 132 because now we are above the average. And Bruni asks a question: is the strangle another way out of covered calls that are in distress?
Yeah, it requires a lot of capital. The easiest way and the cheapest way, the most capital efficient way to protect against your covered calls going to the moon is to buy some long calls as a wraparound. Because you don't want to cheer against your stock ever, because that's counterintuitive, right? Like, why do you want to cheer against your stock? So protect yourself to the upside by buying some long calls as well. So I always like to wrap the strategy around when I already have a full position and I want to continue to sell very aggressive covered calls. I want to have some long calls in place, some leaps in place. And then if things are really going sideways, I can kind of make some timely moves and sell covered calls against those leaps as well. That way I'm not just out that money, because I'm the casino. I want to collect premium. But in some instances, it does make sense to put out some premium as well as an insurance policy, because that's really what buying calls and puts is designed to be. It's an insurance policy. It's not a fucking lottery ticket. The lottery ticket aspect, that's when you're acting like a gambler at a casino. We're operating as a casino and as an insurance agency.
Yep.
So it's a totally different mindset using the same instruments.
100%.
So there's that. Want to talk about another one? Let's find another one here.
Let's do Snowflake. So we took some money on Snowflake.
Oh yeah, let me type this one. And I was happy to do this, dude. I saw the podcast on Cash Flow Chronicles, and Chris Patel, the resident Snowflake bull, turned into a very bearish. Looked like the bear came out of hibernation. You know what I'm saying?
He realized, hey,
why don't you just say you screwed the pooch and he'd rather be in Palantir, but he's not willing to accept defeat. But, as the Proverbs goes, probably goes before the fall, right? So anyway, we collected 3,400 on $120 puts, 719, 10 of those. So we tied up 120 grand essentially. June the 14th to 719, so about a 35-day trade, give or take. And then yesterday, I reached out to Amit, and I was like, dude, we're sitting at like 80% profit right now. We closed it out. We can give 680 of these dollars back, lock in the win, and take the $120,000 off the table, because I think fundamentally things have changed a little bit with Snowflake, because they're fighting with this other company called Databricks and all this other stuff that Amit probably knows a lot more about. And essentially, Chris confirmed what I had suspected the whole time, because I've actually, what you guys don't know is I've invested about 40 hours of my life studying this damn company right here since it went public. And I concluded about 2 or 3 months ago that I don't even think they have a moat. I think what they have is a lot of popularity.
Yeah.
They have a lot of people interested in the company, but what it really is their moat. But I don't really, that's not my strong suit in the market, is to make those determinations. But when Chris Patel substantiated that he doesn't even think that, or at the very least, the moat is being challenged if they even have one, I'm like, dude, I am outies, bro. the conviction went from like a 2 to like a -6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, our strike though at 120, I still think that's a great strike. It's just the reason we closed it is because we're up 80%. Why would we wait for an extra 20% in 2 weeks? So
yeah, so I like it, but I like it more like at 100 now. So I'm kind of like the way Chris Patel looks at Palantir, because he's in the chat right now. If you want to pull him up,
yeah,
so
there he is.
It's like I think he likes Palantir like sub 15. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the guy now with Snow that I'm like, give it to me at 100 and I'll get in. But to me, price matters, entry point matters as well. If the conviction is not as good, well, then give me a good valuation that I can stand behind.
Yep.
Like for me, right? And then we all have our own styles. So is what it is.
Let's look at Robinhood. Let's see what's going on.
Robinhood's a good one, man, for us. I kind of wish we'd already picked up some shares, but it's also, again, you don't want to be in a hurry buying over here at the top, because that's how bag holders are created, right?
Yeah.
So Robinhood has been.
I don't even remember, what do we have open on this? We have puts, right?
Yeah, we'll get to it. So we started in April of 26 with Robinhood, brought in 920, we brought in 360, selling over here into $17 and $16 range. So keep that in mind. We had opportunities here to scoop up some shares at much better valuations, right?
Yeah.
And then we bought to close those. We gave back 30. We gave back 132 of these premiums right here. And then we got into it again. We sold 20 more contracts, collected 940. Sold 5 more contracts, collected 295. Sold 20 more contracts, collected 1,060. We bought to close, so we gave back 300. Sold more contracts, collected 1,300. Bought to close those, 280. This was the 1550s over here, so we realized a win there. And then we sold on May the 28th. We sold 20 more contracts at 1,850. So we've been following this thing up by increasing our strike price and bringing them through the door. Indirectly participating in the fact that Robinhood is going up and to the right. Brought in another 1,080, and then we went a little bit more aggressive and sold 100 contracts at $20, 94.20. So obviously, just looking at this right here, Amit, wouldn't you say that it would have been a better idea to sell 100 contracts over here at 16 and 17?
Yeah. But it just would have been a little riskier because Robinhood hadn't broke out above that $20 range yet, right?
And you were waiting on some key data.
Yeah. Yep.
It was fundamentally something that you were waiting on. You're like, let's wait on these numbers, whatever those numbers were, because I don't know the story the way that you do. But you were waiting for a certain date to happen, and Vlad was going to announce something. And whenever that happened, that's when Robinhood started matriculating up and to the right a little bit more.
Yep.
So it's like they say that the charts tell a story. And then the story should be like an overlay on the fundamentals of the company, right? So there's like a binary event here, and then there should be like a little spike up or down on the actual chart itself, and that kind of checks out with Robinhood, if you will. So there's not really a disconnect there. The story got better, the numbers got better. And then we bought to close these right here, so you'll see that we were collecting a lot of premium down here. And we gave back very little premium to free up the shares, gave back $1,100 over here on the 20. So we collected 94.20. We locked in the win by giving back only 1,100. So that's a realized win right there, but you guys can see that. Collected 9,400, gave back 1,100.
And that's in 2 weeks. 8,000 in 2 weeks.
Not bad, right?
Not bad.
But it's also using $200,000 in capital just to keep the context, right?
Correct.
And then we bought to close, gave back another 100, and then we're like, okay, well, let's do it again. So because there was a little bit of a pullback, so we did 50 contracts. We only got $60 this time per contract, so we picked up another 3,000. So it's half the position that we had over here, but we're also not collecting nearly the same amount of capital as well. And that's where we stand open with Robinhood, Amit, is we've got those 50 contracts at $20, and let's see how those are actually doing right there. We're at about 53% profit.
There we go.
And there's
not bad at all.
How do you feel about it? You like it?
I think it's great. I think, dude, I'm getting so many messages every day of people that are transferring from Schwab, and they're bringing a lot of money, bro. I think this Q2 earnings number is going to be intense. Also, we got an upgrade to $29 from Wolf Research 2 days ago. And I think they talked with the CFO, and I'm pretty sure during that dinner, the CFO told them, like, you guys know what's about to happen here. And they're like, all right, we got to upgrade the stock. So I think we're going to be good.
So, Amit, on this channel, since we started this, this little podcast, if you will, on Wheeling on your channel, which I appreciate the platform, by the way, because I think this is a way to help a lot of people know that there's a very consistent way to make money. It's not going to be oversized returns like, doing debit spreads and things like that. But this is just slow and steady winning the race, having a legitimate strategy in place that you can do over and over and over again that doesn't take as much brain power, but it does take capital.
Yep.
So it's like on the one hand, we do debit spreads, takes less capital, more mind power, right? You got to really, really know what you're doing and see these asymmetrical opportunities in the market. Or you're like, well, I'm not that smart, but I got some capital. I can use more capital to make steady returns and eventually, get there. It's just going to take me a little bit longer. Just to call a spade between the two strategies, right?
Yep, 100%.
So Path dipped like 30% or so after earnings, and I thought it was a good idea to buy the dip. So I nibbled over here with 1,000 shares at $13. So it put out 13,000. So it was a buy right strategy. Immediately sold the cover calls against it, picked up 200. And then I went heavy and I went 100 contracts at $11, picked up 4,000. A couple of days later, I gave back 2,800 because I wanted to realize a win of $1,200 there to create a cushion in the position. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I kept selling covered calls against these shares because these ended up expiring worthless. Sold the covered calls again, brought in another 130. And then I was like, well, let me sell more cash secure puts at 11. So we brought in 280. And then I was like, let me average down on the shares because things aren't really looking too good at 13. So let me get another 1,000 shares at 11.31. So that brought the average up, or the average down to $12.15, where we stand today on 2,000 shares at $12.15. But then I sold covered calls at $11.50 that are currently underwater, but I did bring in $3.90 for that. And then I sold covered calls at $12.50 that were underwater this morning. I don't know if they're underwater right now at $12.50, both expiring on 7/12 for $2.40. Because we've been underwater on cash secured puts before, but we haven't been underwater on covered calls until now. So let's talk about Path. You were a little bit reluctant the whole way through, even after the plummet on the pricing plummet from earnings.
Right.
How do you feel now that these shares could all be called away right now if it stayed above 12.50, and we could fast forward the clock to our expiration dates at 7/12?
Well, the problem is the ones at 12.5, that'll be a win, but the 11.500 shares that get called away 1,000 shares, that's not good.
Well, technically it is a win because I bought those shares at 11.31.
Okay, gotcha. So it would still be gotcha.
But collectively, it's not a win because our average sales price here would be $12.
Right.
You follow me?
Right.
And we're in it for $12.15. So that part's not a win. But what is a win is all the premium that we collected along the way. And we also can't forget that we were down probably 1,500 or so at the low end, or, whenever shit wasn't going our way, we were also down about $1,500 to $2,000 collectively on the position. So how do you feel about it? Because here's the real big teaching segment for people. This was a trade from day one. This was not an investment. This is a very low conviction play. Could we agree on that, Amit?
Yeah.
Because if it was a higher conviction play, it would be a bigger position. So if you're ever curious as to whether or not you think you have a high conviction play or a low conviction play in your portfolio, just look at the weight that it has in your portfolio. If it's a low weight, I don't give a shit what you say. Your actions are saying that it's pretty low conviction, at least at those prices. I'm just saying, because I don't look at what people say, I look at what they do. And based on our actions here, Amit, this is a very low conviction play. Because, if the shit was trading at like 18, $19 and then it plummeted to like 11, if it was high conviction, we should have 10,000 shares in the portfolio. That stands to reason in my mind.
Yeah, I think Path was a cash grab and we got a little stuck on it, but we navigated that, covered calls, puts, averaged down, and so now we're in the green. The thing about it is, as you said, it was low conviction. So if it was higher conviction and it fell to $8-7, we would have loaded up. Because it wasn't, it's kind of one of those plays where, all right, we make $1,000 or whatever and we move on, right? Because we didn't care.
Yeah. So if we look at the scoreboard, though, Path is actually good for 12.30, but it's more than that. I feel like that's actually a little bit off for some reason. We'll have to look, right? So I think what we can do here, Amit, is if you want to play a little bit of accounting, this is just a game of addition and subtraction at the end of the day, right? And there's only 6 or 7 transactions here. So all you do is we add up all the premium. So the premium is, do you have a calculator handy?
Yep.
A minute?
Yeah, I got it.
So we can see exactly how much money we're making. And if we're okay making that amount of money, because at the end of the day it was a cash grab, then I feel like we should be cheering for these shares to stay over 1250 and be done with the position. Because
Yeah.
we can exit stage left with a nice win. So add up the 200, add up, this is a realized win. So add up 1200. So we're at 1400 to the good.
Yep.
Add 130.
Okay.
Add 280.
All right.
Add 390.
Okay.
And add 240.
2440.
Okay, that's our realized premium. And then now we bought the share. So keep that number, like lock it in, right?
Yep.
So then now we bought 2,000 shares for 1215. That's our capital outlay for the share. So that's a number, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
2,000 times $12.15. And we've essentially agreed to sell those shares for $12 collectively.
Right. Minus 24,000. So that would be a 300 net loss on that. So it would go 2,400 minus 300. Our realized is 2,100. That's our net.
Right. So whenever I got into this trade and I'm like, hey, guess what? Because I announced it on your live, right? On the chat. And bought 1,000 shares of UiPath. Hadn't done any work on it whatsoever. This was just literally, it dipped, and I'm like, maybe I can get lucky essentially, because I'm not going to do any work right now. And I was listening to the earnings call or whatever, and it wasn't good. I mean, there was nothing really good that came out of that earnings call. They lowered expectations. They were a little bit in disarray as far as a company. So it's essentially a trade. And I think that where a lot of newer investors or wheelers get into situations is now we've had positive price movement based on our entry point. So now they want to like grow their conviction because they're making money with the play.
Right.
So now they go heavier, and then they go from brag holding to bag holding. Because the shit goes against you, and it was always low conviction. So what I'm telling you is you're never going to go broke locking in a win, especially on a lower conviction play, because I would much rather have this money in play somewhere else.
So let me ask you this question. We ended up making 2,100 in about 3 weeks from this. That's not bad. For you, was it worth the stress of having to deal with it for the potential upside that this thing goes back to 20? Or was it worth the cash grab? Because obviously you could have put that money into other places. So what was the logic behind actually going through this?
The logic for me was, let's nibble, because this was a nibble trade, right? This is a feeler bet in poker at these levels. But if it goes down to like 8 or 9, that presents a legitimate opportunity where the floor is here, but the ceiling could be high at 15, 16, 17 bucks, in my opinion. And now we could potentially make $50,000 to $100,000. That'd go a lot heavier at 8 or 9 bucks, but it just didn't quite give us that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because dude, if a stock gets cheap enough, and I think it has 3 to 5 years of run rate ahead of it without any issues, like I never thought that Path was going to go out of business. I just don't know that they're going to be a profitable business.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I can make $50,000 to $100,000 here if it gives me that opportunity from a price perspective. Right. But if it's not going to give it to me, I'm not going to try to create it here at these levels, because I don't really love it at these levels. I like it, but I don't love it. At 8 or 9 bucks, and nothing's changed fundamentally with the company from the information that we have right now. We get closer to an earnings report. Maybe they give us slightly better news than they did before. I'd love to position myself to make a quick 50 to 100 grand on something that didn't require a lot of work on my end from as far as brain power goes.
Yep.
So, I mean,
right.
yeah, I mean, you're cash grab. You got to call it what it is. You're just playing the price action, but you're hoping that the fundamentals hold up a little bit on the company, and you're essentially playing for the technical bounce because it did get oversold on the technical levels.
Yep. No, I agree. 100%. And we'll see. I mean, Kathy bought the dip on 1 million share. We'll see if she ends up being right on this one.
Yeah, but she bought it at a higher price, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she's holding. Yeah, it's her averages up there. Okay, let's go to HIMS, because this is one you made yesterday.
Yeah, so this was actually shout out to Chris Patel, because he turned me onto this trade, not this one specifically, but he turned me onto this ticker a couple months ago. So what happened was Chris sent me a text and he's like, Hams, I think it's ideal to wheel. I didn't even question it. I immediately sold. I literally did zero fucking homework. I did 50 contracts after that text message, not financial advice, but I know who Chris Patel is. And I collected 1,250. And then I sold another 50 contracts later that day after doing a little bit of homework. So on the first 50, I did nothing. I did maybe 10 minutes of homework just to call it what it is, because I didn't do that much homework. So I'm not going to act like I did. So I collected 2,250 for tying up $110,000, right? 1,100 share, 1,100 times 100. And was in that trade for a day. So I gave back $1,000. So I locked in 1,250 in a day off that tip. And then there was a short report yesterday. So I got a couple of text messages from my subscribers. And they're like, dude, there's a short report and we think it's bullshit. Again, no homework whatsoever. I just looked at the price action real quickly. And I'm like, I'm willing to put a flag in the sand right here at $7.19, $19. Did 50 contracts and I brought in $5,500.
Yep.
And that was just literally studying the technicals for maybe 45 seconds. And somebody telling me that they think that the short report is bullshit.
Yeah, and again, if it's someone
I can't substantiate any of it because I did not verify any of it. But it's because I trust the people. I trust the source that the information, I trust the information that came my way, the source, if you will. So this was just a networking play for me.
That's what I was going to say. If you trust the actual source, then a lot of times, I mean, that's kind of the cool things about having a network of people. Like, it's kind of what hedge funds do, right? Like, they'll call up, they're like Mariana, she's the Palantir Bank of America analyst. She was telling me that, when certain funds have a question, they call her, they talk to her, and they make a decision because they trust that she's the representative that knows what the fuck she's talking about when it comes to Palantir, So if you can call your HIMS guy and be like, yo, is this legit or not? And they're like, it's bullshit, then move, boom. Like when Robin got the SEC notice, the Wells notice, that was bullshit. And it went from 18 to 16. There was an easy opportunity to get shares. But if you knew someone that understood SEC notices, Wells notices are usually bullshit, then you can make quick moves from that.
So can I give a shout out to who I got the tip from?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's really, really popular on X. It's a guy named Chris.
Chris who?
Chris sells options, or Chris something. I think his last name's Pena.
Okay, cool.
He's got a real big following on X, and he also has a Facebook page.
Okay.
And you follow him, y'all follow each other, but I mean, you have a lot of people on your little deal. He's always like on a boat. He's fucking surfing. He was in Australia recently. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? A guy named Chris, and he posted on his X. So he didn't message me directly. I don't have his phone number, but we do communicate. Like he's in the chat sometimes whenever I go live, and sometimes I post on his Facebook page.
You know about this guy?
Yeah, that guy right there.
Oh, yeah. This guy's awesome. Yeah.
So he posted on there that he thought that it was bullshit. And then a couple of my subscribers are like, hey, a Christian's saying that it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And they did the research, allegedly. I don't know if they did or not. So we just went off of what Christian was saying. And and I screenshot all of his trades because he posts them on a weekly basis. So I verify a lot of this stuff, and I can vouch for him. He knows what he's doing. So that's how 5,500 showed up on the scoreboard. So how do you feel about it?
No, I'm good. I read through the short report yesterday as well. I kind of feel like it's bullshit too. I mean, it feels like someone just wanted to come at them. Now, I don't know as much nuance about the report, so there's an argument that it can be correct. But I have a friend as well that is big into HIMS, and he was in a Discord, and I was just chatting with him, and he said it's stupid. And so, yeah, I think sometimes you have to trust sources that you believe in. Ultimately, you have to press the button on the brokerage. But if you trust the source, then it's not a bad play that we made in 19.
All right. So what else do we have here? You want to talk about one that's been really, really good for you? TSLO?
Yeah, let's do this one. Yeah.
So we're up substantially, 82%. This expires we entered into this one on 6/18. So what is that, 10 days ago?
Yes.
And expires on 7/12. So I guess we can play a game, right? To be or not to be, to close or not to close.
I think we close, dude. I don't think we hold for $500. I think we close it.
I agree wholeheartedly. How many contracts is it?
So we got, so for those that were, so I think someone was asking, how do you buy to close? So we have, I think 10 contracts or 100 contracts. We are going to give back some of the premium that we got from the market. We're going to get 5 cents a contract, $500. So we're going to release $70,000 and we're going to recognize 2,800 of premium.
And there it is. You'll see there that it filled already.
See, and again, this is why I like wheeling. Although it's not the dopamine hit of picking a stock and then getting it right after it explodes because you have some options. Collecting $2,800 in 10 days. Yes, it took $70,000 to collect that $2,800. But if you have a large portfolio, I'm sure there's people in the chat that have a couple million, couple, high six figures. There's a lot of ways you can utilize that money to make money in the short term, even if it's 1 or 2% on your money, without having to, buy an option and hope the stock goes to the moon in order for it to make money.
So there hasn't been a lot of trades on here, Mitt. In April the 15th, we brought in 1,300. We rolled it. Remember, this one's the one that the first cash secure put that went in the money and we rolled it.
Yeah.
And we got $200 for rolling it. And we went from a $6 strike to a $5.50 strike to take a little risk off the table. And we brought in a net credit for that. And then we bought to close. So we got 1,500, 13 plus the 200 on the roll. And then we gave back 500 of those dollars. So we locked in a small win. And then on May the 16th, we got 2,700. And we started buying back to close these contracts. We gave back, whatever that is, like 1,700. So we locked in another grand. And then we went heavier. We did 200 contracts. We got 8,400, and then a day later we gave back 7,000. So we locked in another 1,400.
Right.
And then on May the 23rd, we did 100 contracts. We got 2,800. A day later, we gave back 1,700. So we locked in another 1,100. So we just been cash grabbing this thing the whole time. Then we brought in 3,000. We gave back 1,500 8 days later. So we locked in another 1,500. And then what we just did recently on June the 18th, we locked in, we got 2,900 for tying up 70 grand. And then 10 days later, which is today, we gave back the 500. So you guys can see there that we've realized 3 or 4 wins on TSOL and haven't owned 1 share. So it's going to be real hard to make an argument that cash grabbing doesn't work if you pick the right strikes, the right underlying, the right setups, etc. Because we did stay in these the whole way. Like whenever there were some spikes, it's an ETF, it's a leveraged ETF at that. It's extremely volatile and it's tied to the underlying, which we really believe in Tesla, but it's not the underlying.
And Tesla's up at 200 today, which is why it's spiking up.
Yeah. So do you want to do a teaching segment on covered calls gone wrong?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's find a covered call gone wrong.
Well, I got one. It's called Tesla.
Oh boy, here we go.
So first thing, Amit, what have you learned? You got a covered call that's in the money. What's the first thing you want to do?
Cry?
Well, I mean, maybe, but that's not going to be profitable for you. So after you cry, what do you want to do? What are you supposed to do? It's right here. The answer is going to be right here.
Oh, calculate the intrinsic, extrinsic value?
You got to know how much time is left in this option. How much time is really left in the option? And I'm not talking about, the expiration date 7/19 and we're over here at 6/28. That's how much time's left. Now let's talk about how much time in the context of money is left in the option.
Right.
So it's going to be the 190 subtracted from the 201 current share price, the strike price from the share price. That's going to be your intrinsic value. So
yep.
1124. You're going to take that coefficient and subtract it from the options price. So that's going to give you about $6 and some change of extrinsic value. So the question that we're always having to ask ourselves is, how at risk am I really of having these shares called away from me prematurely? And prematurely meaning before the expiration date.
And real quick, TJ, the credit you got was 11. The average credit you got was $11 on this one.
Yeah. So this is, let's go into that's a good question. Let's go into the context of this. Let's go into the genesis of the issues, right? So we go here. You can get full transparency on this segment. That way you really know what's going on. So I thought it was a good idea to sell covered calls against these shares and leaps, mind you, because I only own 2,500 shares, 15 leaps. So I'm running the poor man covered call campaign in conjunction to owning the shares and selling covered calls. So I picked up $13,201 on June the 14th. I entered into a 14-day trade and picked up $13,201. Didn't work out. Didn't work out because Tesla started going up. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me roll these bad boys. Right. So I'm going to find the roll, and that's right here. So on June the 26th, so a couple of days before expiration, I was like, this shit ain't going to work out. Well, let me put some more time on the clock and get some more money. So I rolled from 185 to 190, added another 3 weeks to the contract, and picked up another 10,100. So you add the 10,100 plus the 13,000 from the original trade, and that's how much premium we've actually collected. So if the market value or the average credit shows more than that, then it's taken into account the fact that I actually lost money on the original covered call whenever I rolled it. Right. Because that money just doesn't go under the mattress. We can't just sweep it under the rug. It happened.
Right.
So let's add the 13,201 plus the 10,160. What does that give us? About?
Basically 23 in premium.
So that's how much premium we've actually collected. So now let's look at the actual option now. If Robinhood wants to pull it up for us, it's going a little bit slow. So now we look at the actual option here, the 190 strike, and it has a market value of $66,000. And we collected how much? 24, give or take?
Yeah, yeah.
So can you see how that's no bueno all the way around?
Yep.
So right now, the best course of action is to do nothing and collect this theta right here. But we also have to study the rest of the Greeks. We know that for every dollar that Tesla goes up, we're now going in the hole another $71. Right. That's the reality of it.
Yep.
So at some point, if this starts really looking like we're going to have these shares called away, because Delta is going to be either -1, 0, or +1, depending on what type of trade that you have set up. It's a conversation for another day. We can get into the weeds on that. Like, why do you have negative delta sometimes? Why do you have positive delta sometimes? That's a 10-minute conversation that I don't want to have right now. But bottom line is, this is definitely not looking good. So a lot of people would probably panic and be like, I don't want this stress. I want to stay out in front of the stock. And there's nothing wrong with doing that right now. It's just not the most profitable thing to do, because the risk of early assignment is actually very low. Why is it low, man?
Well, no one's going to exercise a contract at that price when they can buy it at the open market, essentially.
Well, they're buying it from us at 190 though.
Oh, right. And Tesla's 201. So theoretically, they would be getting a cheaper price, right?
Right. But then what's going to happen to the rest of the money on the contract? Because we don't have to give it back. They would have to give it back if they want to buy our shares, because they're tied to a derivatives contract. So you're derivative, right? So you got to learn what the fuck derivatives are if you're going to be calling yourself that name.
So hold on.
If the rest of that derivative.
If they exercise and they buy it at 190, you're saying they would also have to pay the 1658 as well.
Facts.
So they would actually be 200.
They don't pay all of it because some of it's intrinsic. They're going to have to pay back that extrinsic. In other words, they're like, I know that if I just wait for the duration of this contract, I already have a contract in place that says I can own these shares at 190, even if it's trading at 290.
Right.
But if I want to own them today, I have to relinquish some of my built-in profits of this, because this option is going for 1660. But I don't have 1660 of intrinsic value. I've only got 1132. So my question to you and to the audience that's always shitting on covered calls, who's going to make good on that extrinsic value? Not me.
So they would have to give up 16 minus 11, right?
They'd have to go about $5 a share.
Plus the 190. So that's 195, which is still cheaper than 201.
It is, but I guess I always ask myself, what's in it for them? Why would they want to do that now when they already paid for the rest of this contract to let it play out? Like what is in it for them?
Right.
Are they going to receive a dividend from Tesla for taking ownership of the shares today? Like, why are they incentivized to own the shares today? That should be on a t-shirt. What's their incentive to own the shares today? Comment on the chat, because you guys always have a lot to say about this kind of stuff. So now I'm giving you an opportunity to fill in the blanks on the exam. It's not multiple choice. I want you to think. And I'm telling you, they don't have a big incentive financially to do so. So all of the stress that you have in your head, it's just shit that isn't really that real. You got to focus on the numbers.
Now, if Tesla was 280, they would have the
different game.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a different game. Totally different game.
Have you ever gotten shares exercised early, called away from you?
Yes.
And has the situation been that the stock ran up so aggressively that that's when it happened?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I would imagine it wouldn't happen in a situation like this.
Yeah. And dude, I actually had shares called away that weren't even in the money. It happened on SoFi. I got shares called away at 7. And SoFi was trading at 690 and some change. And
why would
you want to own my shares at 7? But okay. And it was really, and I got some put on me too. Like there was 300 shares that I had put on me. And I was like, this is weird. These aren't even in the money. But 300 SoFi shares got pulled on me. So I'm telling you, if you're playing SoFi, there's a lot of people with very, very low IQs on the other side of the fence. Be careful. Because you can't control what the counterparty does. And we don't know how these marriages happen with pairing up the buyer and the seller on the Robinhoods of the world. We all have suspicions, but we don't really know how it happens. It's supposed to be pretty random.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know that you're not with the same counterparty the whole way through, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, this shit is like an ongoing option.
I believed it was always algorithmically paired, and there's tons of stuff we don't know about how they, match the contracts. But
yeah, I don't know. So anyway, here, not doing anything. I'm not doing anything, but I also have to assume that risk, because what's the risk? The risk is I have these leaps that are printing money. So let's talk. I'm going to give you guys some gold right now. I have these leaps that are printing money. Amit, would you agree that 51% on a $75,000 investment up about 50 grand, 40 grand? That's looking like Chris Patel type shit, right? Like where you put up a little bit of money to make a lot.
Yep.
So I risk losing out on a lot of this profit if I were to have those shares exercised right now.
Right.
Because all of that extrinsic value on the leap that I paid for would go away. I'd get a notification from Robinhood though, because I have a thing called do not exercise my contracts. It's a form that I filled out with Robinhood. So they would notify me and be like, hey, they want their shares. You don't own the shares because I only own 2,500.
Right.
But I have covered calls on 40 contracts. So you guys see that?
The leaps are
in the chat if you follow what's going on here.
Yeah, the other 15 leaps are defending your covered calls, essentially.
Correct. So I don't want them to exercise these. So Robinhood's going to do me a solid and be like, hey, you need to go buy 1,500 shares to deliver these right here.
Right. Right.
So I could close it on my own volition and be like, okay, cool. Let me go. Like if I just want to lock in the win, that we just do the math. It is $1,690 times 15. So put that, whatever that is, Amit, 1,690 times 15.
That is 25,000.
So 25 grand. So that's how much money I could pay back right now and get out of the covered calls for the leaps. And then I could just turn around and sell the leaps and wash my hands clean and lock in about a $17,000 win.
Right.
If I do it. If Robinhood does it, I'll probably end up losing money because now all the money that I'm up on those leaps, I'm not really going to realize that.
Correct. Yeah.
Because of the order of operation, the way that they're going to do things, because they don't have my best interests at heart.
These are sticky situations to get in, and so it takes a lot of practice and experience to learn how to navigate them. But on a day when Tesla runs up the way it is, yeah, you gotta consider that risk. Now, when do you think of rolling that contract for Tesla?
Whenever it gets a little too, and keep in mind, I'm only going to look to roll to 15. Because on my shares, I don't give a shit. I own these shares at 197, I think. Let me go over here. I own these shares at 196. I've agreed to sell them at 190. And I have sold so many covered calls and cash secured puts on Tesla that my adjusted cost basis is like 130. So I'm going to be stingy with my extrinsic value. You follow me?
Right.
And I don't believe Tesla has any reason to run to 250 or 300 right now, because last time I checked, they aren't really selling cars hand over fist. We're betting on a fucking robo taxi, and my son has a Tesla, and he's like, Dad, this FSD is not there yet. Don't believe all the bullshit and all the hype. This thing tries to kill me on a daily basis. So I'm just saying, dude, I have intel too from someone that is very, very precious to me, and he's not going to lie to me about the technology that he has in his car. And I have reason to believe that his Tesla, like everybody else's Tesla, when it comes to the FSD. And in San Antonio, Texas, that ain't working so well. So I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's wait and see. I know 8 robo taxi and all that's fine and dandy, but valuations matter. And I just don't think that right now, right here, Tesla is a $300 company. So I'm not buying into that narrative. They got things to prove. So I'm in wait and see mode. And if these shares get called away from me, Amit, I don't give a shit, bro. I will just turn around and sell 25 cash secured puts at 190. And I'll do that 3 or 4 or 5 times to get premiums that I left, or money that I left on the table. And once I'm satisfied with that number, then I'll inch it up to like 195, and I'll do that several times, and I'll inch it up to 200, and I'll follow Tesla back up that way via cash secured puts, kind of the way that we've been doing with TSLL the whole time. And we never owned any shares, but we still made money. The money's still green.
I agree.
So I'm just not emotionally attached to Tesla, because I don't buy into the narrative that it's going to $300 and $400 right now.
All right,
let's see it'll pull back. I mean, I study the technicals as well.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's a good breakout, but 250, 260 is a little tough for Tesla to get there. So
what can we do to defend it? Let's talk about it. What can we do to defend it right now besides rolling? Rolling's cool, but that's rookie shit. There's other stuff that we could do to defend it. One is I could buy more calls.
I was about to say, yeah.
That's one that we could do. We could look to buy more calls, buy more leaps. Those leaps are printing. Let's buy some more. They could be cheaper, because instead of buying them at 150, I'll buy them at 200. Doesn't take that much money to do that for a portfolio this size. Another thing that I can do is anticipate that I'm going to be leaving some money on the table. Well, let me start playing for that, and let me just start selling some more cash secured puts and bring some more money to the table that way. So it's 25 contracts. So that's a lot. So let's just do it with the leap. So let's do 15 contracts. And when is it? 8/8. So let's do it for 8/2. 8/8's the day, right? Robotaxi?
Right.
So I agree to sell them at 190. Why don't I agree to buy them back at 190 then? So then I can do 15 contracts over here and pick up, I don't know, let's go 708. It would get filled immediately. And I'm like, if I feel that fucking strongly about it.
So hold on. So just to walk us through this, you are selling 15 contracts, 1,500 shares, because potentially you would have to give up those 1,500 shares, and you're collecting premium, which means if you get called away, at least you keep this 10,000 premium you get. If it gets back to 190, you get to buy 1,500 more shares if you want.
Right. So this is where, the reason I'm putting that right here is because this is where you get to test your conviction. If you're so damn afraid that you're going to have to sell them at 190, why don't you put a contract up that says you got to buy them back at 190 right now? And I guarantee you, 9 out of 10 of you guys aren't going to be willing to fucking do it. Me neither. Why? Because I'm not that paranoid about it.
Right.
And I don't really think Tesla's that good of a deal at 190. So I'm flipping it on your ass right now. If you're so damn anxious about selling them at 190, we'll put a contract that says you got to buy them at 190. How do you feel about that contract? Not too good, right?
Well, it's a really good thought experiment because it forces you to reconcile how paranoid you are about the shares getting called away.
Exactly. So if you're that fucking paranoid, here's a chance to pick up 10,649 to satisfy your paranoia. Go buy yourself some Tylenol. I don't know. Whatever you do, Adderall, whatever the hell you buy for your paranoia. The shit that Elon Musk is on. I don't know. But this is what I'm saying is you're not going to be that excited to sell these contracts right here because they're not really that great for us.
Yeah. And it's a green day, so the premium
at 175 maybe, but the premium's going to suck.
And it's a green day, so the premiums already suck right now. Like, you know, if it's a red day, the premiums get better. But when it's a red day, then you think your shares aren't getting called away, right? So
I'm just saying, like, do these exercises with you, and you'll be like, oh shoot, why am I so afraid to sell them here if I'm not willing to buy them? So then it's like, how convicted are you really, and are you really long?
Yeah.
You know, because I did a whole segment on this, and we can leave with this and what does it mean to you to be long a stock? You want to do it, or we're just talking?
Yeah. I would say longest stock to me is at least 5 years at minimum, if not a decade. Like for Palantir, I really want to hold this thing till I have kids, dude. Like I just want to keep accumulating shares. I want to get to 10,000 shares at one point, and it's just there for a long time, you know?
Right.
So I would say 5 years at least.
So to me, being longer stock means that there's no price action that can happen that's going to make me want to sell. Nothing fundamentally, nothing technical. In other words, I don't even have to open this portfolio for 5 years, and I want those shares sitting there for 3 to 5 years. That's longer stock.
Yeah. Yeah.
When people say that covered calls this, that, and the other thing, and it's limiting the upside, etc., the reason that they don't like covered calls and they're so averse to it is because they don't want to manage that covered call for 3 to 5 years because they're not really long that stock. They want to reserve their option to be able to sell that stock at any moment. And I can use Palantir as an example because I did Palantir in our chat when I did it. I go, a lot of you fuckers would sell Palantir tomorrow if it went up to $40.
That is true.
You're not really long Palantir. You're long Palantir as long as it didn't make sense to be long. Because the minute it doesn't make sense, you're going to make it fucking dollars. Because that's dollars and cents. I used to be a segment on CNBC. So I don't want to hear your bullshit about being long. You know what I mean? You're not really long. You're long as your thesis isn't wrong. The minute that the shit's wrong, you're fucking out of there. So I don't want to hear your bullshit. What you're really telling me is you don't want to manage the covered call because you're not really, really long this stock. And you want to reserve your option to sell out of your shares for a profit because right now you want to be in a situation to lock in your money. Because what opportunity cost is there if you're long the stock? Riddle me that. Admit you're a master debater.
No, it's a really good point you're making
because you had this conversation with Tanner. That's why I'm giving you some pushback right now.
Oh, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Because the point is, like, if I'm long Palantir and I know I don't want to sell to like my price of like 250 or whatever it may be, if it goes to 40 tomorrow and you want to sell, the problem is you want to realize that profit. Your argument is if you sell a covered call and you know you're going to manage that covered call, because you don't want to let the shares go, it puts more work on you, but it proves that you're long the company versus having the option to get out at $40 because then you're going to take your profits. But that means you're not actually long because if it got to $40, you should be holding. If you're long,
and I'm not questioning your conviction and not being quote unquote long. What I'm questioning is I don't think that you're that fucking stupid that you're not going to lock in a profit. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if Palantir goes to a $500 million or $500 billion valuation tomorrow, I think it has the potential to be there in 10 to 15 years, but not tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you're just going to make a point on YouTube and you're not going to lock in a profit that could change the trajectory of your family tree? I mean, you're not that dumb, are you?
Well, the insiders.
Like in my mind. And they sell all the time, don't they? Granted, they have different ways to accumulate shares for working there, but I mean, they sell all the time at 26, 27, $28. I mean, they kind of might be telling you that, hey, it's good to get this money right here.
Yeah, I think it's the right philosophy. It's that if you do a covered call and you collect premium, you might get underwater, but you can always navigate. You can always push that covered call out, even if it has to be years.
If you're long the stock.
Right.
The people that are getting real angry at covered calls are not really long the stock, in my opinion. And that's why they're mad, because now they can't sell out of their position because they're underwater on this damn covered call. So that's why I only sell covered calls on stocks that I'm legit long on, or legit, I don't give a shit if they get called away, a la Path. Is that Path cover call stressing me out right now? I'm like, dude, take those fucking shares. I probably didn't even need to be in that position to begin with. I'll wipe my tears with the $2,000 profit and pay some taxes, whatever.
So your argument is actually, because some people would go against you and say, if you're long a stock, this is what Tanner's argument was, you don't sell the covered call because you're afraid of limiting the upside and you need to be long. Your argument is actually, no, it proves that you're long because you're willing to manage the position. Versus
I'm willing to chase my tail for the next 3 to 5 years because eventually I believe that I can catch the stock. Or at the very least, sell at a much higher price than I'm obligated to sell today.
Right. And again, the reason this is important, some people might be thinking, oh my God, you're going through so much mental stress just to manage this covered call. The point is most stocks, unless they have an NVIDIA type of year, don't run up 1% every single day. And if most stocks don't run up 1% every day, for the far majority of stocks, if you sell a covered call, weekly covered call, monthly covered call, you're going to be okay because stocks don't go up 5% every single month like NVIDIA.
There's outliers, dude. Like there was one that really did me dirty called Meta. And Meta just kept going and going and going. I sold this shit at like 215, 2,500 shares. Life-altering money if I still hold those shares right now. But I made some money along the way selling some timely cash secured puts. I did it recently at the $400 level because I thought that it had gotten as active. There was like an earnings or something. It went low, and I'm like, what are y'all looking at? Dude, it's still Meta. It's just going to 500 or 600. And I made like $30,000 or $40,000 during that time frame. So I was like, it's whatever, but I was never really long Meta. It was a trade, and I made a couple of 6 figures on it. So I was like, okay, cool. It might have been 7 figures if I would have been more disciplined, but I'm not angry about making a couple $100,000 on it either.
So you brought up Meta. Could we end with looking at Meta put premiums? Because I was going to suggest to you, let's do Meta. I was looking at it myself.
Well, you gotta be bringing up all the shit.
No, I want, dude, let's get Meta at like 470. I think it makes sense, and I would be absolutely have no problem owning Meta at 470.
Look, I'm not lying to you guys. Look at that right there.
Yeah, 1,500 shares. Yeah, let's get back in, dude. Let's get back in. Or let's at least see the premiums. I think we could do 2 contracts.
This was on the Webull account where because I have a couple of accounts that aren't online, and I did. Was it 50 contracts or 75 contracts at like 400, bro? And the premiums were just retarded. So yeah, dude. So look, where would this portfolio be if I still have 1,500 shares of Meta? I mean, just do the math on it. You follow me? I do it all the time. Cry myself to sleep.
Oh my God.
There's Meta.
That's a lot. That's a lot of
shit. I'm saying, do you get stuff on this channel you're not going to get anywhere else, bro? Because I don't give a shit what you think about me. If I could pay bills with your opinion, it would have value, right? That's what my brother taught me when I was 12 years old when people were bullying me. You're going to grow up one day and we're going to have to pay bills like mom and dad. So people's opinions don't mean shit because you can't pay bills with them. And dude, that was like the best advice I ever got. My brother was like 14 years old at the time. And he was like, "You gives a shit what people think about you." Because I was like, Christ, I was getting bullied, dude. And it was just like people were mean when I was a kid, like a lot meaner now because, nothing was on social media. So you couldn't be tainted forever.
Yeah.
And so my brother gave me that little sound advice. And he was like, who gives a shit what people think? You can't pay bills with their opinion. And it gave me a lot more confidence. So anyway, Meta, what are you thinking?
So let's go to the put premiums. Let's go a month out, 475, July 26th. That's the price I like it at, but 460 is not bad either. Okay, 480 is what looking better. Yeah.
The 30 delta, bro. This is good right here.
490. Yeah, because the Meta
it's fucking Meta, dude. It's not like it's going out of business.
It's not going out of business, and election advertising is gonna be a tailwind. Their capex is gonna finally result in, I think, ROI. Even if not this quarter, they're gonna make it obvious that it's coming soon. And there was some independent study that said June was one of their best months for Instagram engagement. So they got a price target upgrade by like 3 different firms the other day to 550. I think that is a no-brainer, quite frankly.
Cool. So how many you want to sell? You want to
Let's do 2. We only have 200,000 left in collateral on my side, but if you want to,
I mean, I got a lot more than that. So let's do 5, bro. That way we can really feel the win.
Okay, you want to do 485 or 490? Like 490?
No, we'll go here. We'll manage it, dude. Here's my strategy on cash secured puts. I go high because I know I can always roll this shit anyway, so I might as well maximize the premium for tying up the money. Because if we're right, we got rewarded with more premium.
Is there any downside to that? You go high first, knowing you'll roll. Is there any way that goes wrong?
Because I'm willing to own the shares.
Right.
I mean, dude, if I didn't know any better, I'd just buy the shares here and sell covered calls. Call it good.
Right.
Because why are you going to sell cash secured puts on a stock if you think this is the top? Answer that on the chat, guys. I'm giving you all shit that you guys just because I'm in a giving mood today because my wife was nice last night, if you know what I mean. She give it to me, I give to you.
Oh my God. Did you watch the debate?
Seriously, think about that. Have you ever thought about that, Amit? Why would you sell a cash secured put right here if you thought it was at the top? Why would you do that?
You're right. You wouldn't, of course not, because then it can keep going lower. Yeah.
I'm just saying, dude. Like this is like a lot of this shit that you guys think about, dude. We already had these thoughts. You're not that original. We all think about the same shit. I don't think the top is here. It's not even close in Meta. I think Meta can still double from here, bro.
I think Meta can get to like 750 in the next like 8, 5, 6 years, dude. Like Meta is not going anywhere. Nowhere. So Meta has earnings on July 24th. Okay. So this would be 2 days.
When do they have earnings?
I don't know if this is correct, but someone says July 24th.
So let's look at the IV. Here's the IV, 44%. Thank you for that, by the way. If somebody has that intel, because that's really important intel. So
they are right. It looks like July. I think they're right. July 24th. Yeah. On my website, it looks like July 24th. Yeah.
Yeah, because you see the IV is 28% over here on July the 19th. So if you throw the binary event into the equation over here, you see how the IV spikes a lot more to 44.
Yeah.
That's because there's a binary event there.
Yeah, and the thing is, Meta already fell from like 520 back to 398. I don't know if the street would let it fall again because all the arguments for why it fell were stupid, and obviously it's gone back up because the street realized it was stupid. So
yeah, but let's just say that it happens and we pick up shares. We'll roll it. Let's just say 475 is the price target to take ownership.
Yeah.
And then if it dips to 375, we'll just buy another 500 shares. What's the big deal? Again, being adequately capitalized, bankroll management that makes sure that you can afford these stocks. Make sure you can afford to really be in it. I don't mind restructuring the portfolio to get 1,500 shares back in Meta because I'm not angry at Meta. I'm angry at myself.
Right.
I just gave you guys $1 million lesson right there. I'm not angry at Meta for going from 213 to 516. I got angry at me. Meta didn't do shit. Meta doesn't even know me.
Well, they definitely know They definitely know everything about you. That's for sure.
No, what I'm saying, that's true, right? No, but what I'm saying is, Mark don't fucking know. Meta don't care, bro. What I'm saying is, Meta don't care that I was in that play and I could have had a lot more money in this account, but now I'm not. So I'm cool here trying to grab some of this money. This isn't revenge trading. I just think that Meta is still a good trade, and it's a much better trade than I thought it was back then. Because if I thought it was a better trade back then, I would have done more to hold on to it. But what I did, full disclosure, is I moved that money over to Tesla because Tesla is more high conviction for me. And so far, that has proven to be absolutely just a bad play, probably one of the worst plays in my career so far. I'm hoping for a redemption story down the road. But all of that Meta money is the Tesla position that you see. So, I mean, again, I give it to you guys all here, man. The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. It is what it is.
All right, let's end it on selling 5 options on Meta.
So we'll go here. Where is it? This guy right here?
See if we can get 13.
I think we might be able to.
Maybe even
medium. I like it. It's not going to happen.
Okay, we have to do 12.
Let's go 1290.
And by the way, guys, if you want the wheel tracker Excel sheet, email amit@dailypalantir.com and I'll send them out this weekend.
There you go.
There you go. So what is that? 1290 times 5, about $6,000.
Yeah, I'm just refreshing.
64.5. 60. So to explain to people what we did, we agreed to buy 500 shares at a $490 strike. which is $245,000 of collateral, and we got paid $6,450 above that 245, which is a 2.6% return. And again, people may think, oh, 2% is nothing. It's 2% within a month, and it's on capital. That worst case scenario, you roll the contract or you own Meta. You don't lose that money. You just own more of a stock that you already cared about.
And then when he's turning around and sell covered calls on it, big deal. But this will be the first bullet, dude. If like doing this, like in my mind, I was like, okay, shit hits the fan. I'm willing to go as heavy as 1,500 to 2,000 shares on Meta.
Yeah.
And I'll have that average in the low 400s. If it get, because I'm going to buy all the shares right here, right? Like, I mean, like I'm kind of hoping it goes to 400 low key now, because anytime I sell cash secure put, I want the shit to tank. Because then I can really put the position that I wanted all along. But right here, I'm not going to go crazy and do 20 cash care puts. First of all, I might not even have the capital to do that right now because I got a lot of open positions. But I don't want Meta for 490, or at least not that many shares. You know what I mean? Whatever the strike price was. What did we go with? 480, 490?
490. And there's an argument. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's an argument they could split that sucker 5 times.
And that's awesome. So at least have twice as many shares, right? Whatever
and it would explode the options. It would make premiums even better. I don't think it would happen, but I think Meta's in a good spot.
So what was it? 64.90 is what they gave us.
We got 64.50.
64.50. Okay, cool. Because I'll have to make an adjustment over here on the scoreboard. So that puts us at about 71,000 for the project.
Not bad.
Awesome, brother. You want to do your word of the day, and I'll update this thing?
Yes, sir. Right before that, again, guys, if you're not following TJ on YouTube, please make sure to follow him there. That is in the chat. And then on Twitter, he's been doing absolutely amazing on Twitter. If you're not following him on Twitter, awesome wheeling community there. So Twitter is there in the description as well, and it's in the chat. All right. Word of the day. This word sucks. Let's do a better word. This one's dumb. This word. Oh, this is a good one. Not a horrible one. So, word of the day is deference.
Deference.
Deference means to respect and esteem that is appropriate to show to someone, such as a superior or elder. Something done in deference to or out of deference is someone or something is done in order to show respect for the opinions or influence of that person or thing. So, TJ definitely gets a ton of deference from me, given his wheeling skills. And it's really fun, TJ. I appreciate you taking me on this journey and getting me to learn this industry, essentially. It's a whole different industry.
Yeah.
It's a cash flow business.
Without saying too much, just to do a little teaser out there. What do you think about that conversation last night with the 1 year down the road plan?
I think TJ has big plans down the road. I think there's lots of things that he's working on, lots of things that he can do. And I'm excited for you. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, let me know if you want to be part of that journey, because the paperwork's already getting filed.
All right.
Shut up, bro. Like, this is 500 going to pale in comparison to the shit that I got in my twisted little head over here. A little hot tua for you guys.
I mean, last night it seemed like,
I got to get a honey-do list, dude, and then I got to go get this workout in, dude. It's a fun workout today, bro. Chest, abs, cardio. You got to have those workouts that you look forward to, because legs is like, oh my Lord, dude, I need motivational speeches to get.
You've been doing what, 5 days a week? You've been getting at it?
Like six.
Oh, so you're taking it seriously. You're like really in the
gym, bro. Like, I mean, this is the only body that I can live in, right? So I got to try to make it look like a little something.
No, we need you. We need your information. We need your wisdom. We appreciate you, TJ. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Week. All right. Talk later.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. So that's it for the show. Today, I'll be back on the market close. This was a good segment. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. We went through a lot of different stuff in regards to wheeling. Quick look at the market. Meta right now, 515. NVIDIA, 125. S&P, 547. So market's going up a bit. Tesla still holding on to that 201 level. Apple at 214. Palantir, 2549. Robinhood taking a little bit of a dip today, probably because Bitcoin showing some weakness, but the broader market doing well. Yeah, Bitcoin right here down about 2%. That's probably affecting Robinhood. TSM at 174. SMCI at 885 or 855. DJT now is down 1%. It was up 9%. And then HIMS right here at 1986. SoFi actually up 1% at 660. Bank of America, JP Morgan, TFC, all the banks are up on the day. And then we got Tesla at 201. Not bad on Tesla at all. Tesla holding on to that 201 level. I like it. Let's see if it continues to maintain. But the broader market, that PCE reading was good, which is why you got the S&P at 547. And basically having a chill day on a Friday. All right. That's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, email amit@dailypalantir.com. I already got a bunch of emails. If you want the wheel tracker Excel sheet, I'll send it by tonight or tomorrow morning. And we'll be back for market close at 3:45. We will have Palantir Weekly tonight at 11 p.m. So we will have Palantir Weekly, and we'll keep going from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you in a few hours. Bye, everyone.